This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is a Fast Break Podcast, NBA trade deadline extravaganza. We are covering all 7 major trades in this episode. We're also going to be talking to Jake about who's the best team in the Eastern Conference. We'll talk about Anthony Davis as well, not being traded, and we'll even throw in a little bit of Wet Boys as well. Quick little segment, giving some love to some guys that deserve it. I am Sean Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, buddy.
And today, again, obviously it's the NBA trade deadline extravaganza. We are super excited about it. Before we jump into everything, don't forget to check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/mostvaluablepodcast. Follow us for some great content over there. Also, if you're listening to us on iTunes or on Blog Talk Radio or Stitcher, I don't know if Stitcher or Blog Talk Radio have these opportunities or any podcasting service. If they do, please review us. We'd appreciate it. You guys listen to us all the time. We see our numbers. You guys are coming in bunches, and we appreciate that so much. But if you have that opportunity, give us a 5-star rating, because we love it, and we'd love to get this to more people. We'd love to have our opinions in this community spread as far as possible. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting. Also, if you do want to support us just a little bit more, you don't think the 5 stars is enough, probably is. But some people don't, and some people actually give to our Patreon, patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast, and those people are absolute superstars. We're setting up all these different appointments. We're going to have our good new patron, John, on February 22nd. So super excited to have him on, and we're going to jump into it now for the NBA trade deadline extravaganza. We're going to start off in Toronto. Marc Gasol is moved from Memphis after being there for 10 years. Marc Gasol is now a Toronto Raptor. The 34-year-old, just turned 34 on January 29th. Happy birthday, Marc. Is now a Toronto Raptor. The deal is DeLon Wright, Jonas Valanciunas, and a second-round pick for Marc Gasol. What was your guys' immediate reaction to the Marc Gasol trade?
Heist. This was a heist. The Raptors, by far, like, it's not even fair. Like, JV is great. CJ, okay. But, come on, we're talking about Marc Gasol. We're talking about...
that's right, CJ Miles.
Yeah,
I forgot about him.
We're talking about a guy who was a former defensive player there, former multi-time All-Star. He's one half of the Gasol brothers. He is in his own tier. And I just yes, this just works. I think this is something that the Raptors knew in their heads. Are like, look, we're good, but everybody else is making these improvements. We need to get something to put us over the top. We need to make sure we got that second piece. And defensively, they are disgusting now. Danny Green, Kawhi Leonard, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Serge Ibaka, and now Marc freaking Gasol. Are you kidding? Who's going to score?
Yeah, seriously. And you look at this team, Ricky, just adding more veterans to this team. And we saw, in the playoffs consistently, this team kind of falls out. Having this veteran president. I know Jonas was a huge member of that locker room, but, not only talent-wise, like Dave's saying, this has to be huge just for their playoff implications as well, right?
And just to go off of what Dave was saying, not just the heist thing of what it means to the Raptors, but my first thought was, so you should have kept Fizdale, right? You should have kept Fizdale. Because remember, you got rid of Fizdale because Gasol's our guy. Now Fizdale's doing some good things. Future looks bright in New York. I'm just going to say, future looks bright. And now Memphis, it looks like it's dark and gloomy. Not going to go full Dave on you, but that's for a different day. For the Raptors, though, this will be an interesting move. And the reason why is my biggest question about it is Marc Gasol in general, where you look at Jonas Valanciunas. He was a guy that had to take a different role. He had to relegate himself to a certain role on this team. Is Marc Gasol going to be that guy if he needs to be the sixth man? Is he going to be okay being the sixth man? Is he going to be okay being a lesser role on a team? Because he was coming from Memphis where he was the guy. He was the star. It was him and Conley out there. And now he might be the third, at most the third behind Kawhi and Kyle Lowry. And if he's the sixth man, is he going to take on that role willingly and be okay with it? Not saying that he's not, But will he is the question.
First off, last time the Knicks won a home game was December 1st. So, yeah.
I'm just saying the
Fizdale's
future,
doing some great stuff.
The future looks bright.
Duke has won more times at Madison Square Garden than the Knicks have.
This year.
Yeah, this year. So, I don't think the future looks that bright. They might get KD and Kyrie Irving, and if they don't, they just trade Kristaps Porzingis.
We all know you're a Nick hater, Sean.
I'm not a Nick hater. I think that, getting rid of your franchise for a guy who's been there for a year would be stupid. The Memphis Grizzlies made stupid moves, not trading Tyreek Evans, signing Chandler Parsons, signing Mike Conley to the largest deal in NBA history at the time. Those are dumb moves. Not trading away Marc Gasol, your franchise, that early would be a dumb move.
Should have kept Fizdale.
However, with Marc Gasol, I mean, you saw the start that he got off early in the season, the first 20 games, 47% from the field, 41% from 3 on 4.5 attempts per game, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.7 steals, 1.3 blocks, 18.5 points. He was absolutely phenomenal to start off this year. And then you look, recently as well, what he's been able to do, kind of starting around, let's say, the 9th of January, 46% from the field, 30% from 3, which isn't great, but 8 boards a game, 5.2 assists per game, about 16 points per game. You bring up the fact of him being the sixth man, and I don't know if that's entirely going to be their look every single night. He didn't start for him in the first game, but also this has been a Raptor team that's been playing together for about 55 games now, and they've been using the same lineup for most of the year. I think going away from that right away would be kind of a mistake. You could have taken the shot, against New York because it is a lesser opponent. You don't want to be trotting that out against Boston. You want to have make sure you have a homogenous team. But I think the biggest thing that I like about this Marc Gasol trade, love about this Marc Gasol trade, is the fact that he's finally going to be playing for something. This has been a guy that they've been in the playoffs before. Grizzlies not too long ago, about 2 years ago, they lost to the Spurs in their first round series. The last time they were there was 2016, 2017, and he was playing fantastic. Last 2 times he's been in the playoffs, it's past 17 games. He's put up 19.6 points per game on 50% shooting from 3 and 41% shooting from the field. He's been a monster in the playoffs, and he finally is able to go back there. And this might be one of his last times to get to the finals, because this is a Toronto team that's loading up to get to the NBA Finals. This could be his first time going to the finals, and this might be his last chance as well to be a great contributor on the team, because he hasn't been a consistent contributor this year because of just his age, because of injuries slowing him down. And now he finally gets to play something, because he did go through a tumultuous time last year with the David Fizdale stuff. He wasn't playing all the time in Memphis. They were benching him every now and then because he didn't want to play, because he just didn't feel like it was worth it. And this year too, having JB Bickerstaff there and not having a ton of playing time and a ton of things to play for, Memphis wasn't a place that was giving him that drive. And I think now having that drive back, and like Dave said, this is a former Defensive Player of the Year. This is a former 2-time NBA, All-NBA player. This is a guy who's a former All-Star. He still has skills. I mean, we see what his brother Paul was doing when healthy. I mean, Paul was still being able to contribute off the bench. Paul
evolved his game, though. He's still playing. It's nuts.
And I think that Marc is a very similar guy. They still have very similar mindsets. And Marc's been able to expand his game as well. He's become a pretty decent 3-point shooter, shooting around 35% for a big man, which is fantastic.
Oh, it's amazing.
And if he's shooting less from 3 on Toronto with a great passer, not really losing the facilitating ability between Conley and Lowry, and also having Kawhi out there.
There's more weapons.
Yeah, and Siakam was a pretty decent passer as well, who can at least create, drive into the bucket. I think that Marc Gasol is just going to increase his numbers. He's going to be super efficient. First game, he's not really gelling with this team, but once we come to the playoffs, Marc Gasol is going to be a dangerous weapon. And when you're going up against guys like Joel Embiid, you need a player like Marc Gasol who might not be super athletic like Joel Embiid is, might not be as strong as Embiid is, but positioning is huge when you're going up against players, and he is a great player, a very smart defender, and he's proved, I think, when you look at Embiid's career, when he's going up against Marc Gasol, he has been the least efficient he's ever been in his career. I think he shoots around 33% going up against Marc Gasol. So Marc Gasol can possibly be an Embiid stopper, something that I don't think they had with Jonas Valanciunas. I think it's a massive upgrade for this Toronto team.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves and say Embiid stopper, because the big thing, whether it's Embiid, whether it's going to be Brook Lopez with Milwaukee, whether it's going to be Al Horford with the Celtics.
Don't laugh at Splash Mountain. Don't laugh at Big Splash Mountain.
I will.
Yeah, but the thing with all 3 of those, what can they do on their teams? Stretch the floor. And that's the thing where in a 7-game series, when you're playing Toronto, when you're playing Milwaukee, when you're playing the Celtics, Is Gasol going to be able to stay out there if a team stretches out and goes more to that stretch big? I feel like this might be a situation. The crux in this, if he plays great and can do that, fine, it's great. But the crux in it is when they had Jonas Valanciunas, they could say, yo, Jonas, it ain't working. We're sitting you. Marc Gasol, if you're going to him in a playoff series saying, hey, we have to sit you, is he going to be a guy that goes, all right, coach, I'm going to sit? Or is he going to be a guy that goes, no, I should be out there? Causes a rift. And will he be able to be out there if they stretch the floor?
I'm going to go real quick.
Yeah.
No, I don't think he's going to cause a rift because this is a guy who is a veteran. He caused a rift in Memphis because he thought it was his team, and David Fizdale was coming in and saying, no, it's my team. Marc Gasol is a guy that now is going to a different place. He doesn't have that same leverage as he did in Memphis. And I don't think he was in the wrong with going and doing what he did in Memphis. That was his team. That was the grit and grind days. Marc Gasol was the star of that team. He had every right to go and do that in Memphis. I don't think he's going to be doing that in Toronto. He's a veteran. He knows why he's there. It's to win a championship. And if he does get benched, it might be for the right reasons, but also I think he's going to do his absolute best to make sure he's helping this team out there. And when they do and go and stretch the floor, it's not a huge disadvantage if they have to take Marc Gasol out there because they have Ibaka who can go in there and help that stretch. Dave, jump in.
Yeah, the two things to really point out for me are, you mentioned a couple of names. Brook Lopez. It's not like he's out there being hyper mobile or anything. He's a big man who stands in the corner. I'm pretty sure Marc Gasol can handle that in most occasions. Joel Embiid, it's trailing threes. It's when his team is moving the ball up court. Joe is a little bit slow sometimes intentionally, so they can set up J.J. Redick coming off a screen and Joe coming up late. Give them an opportunity to take a three. Again, that one Gasol positionally, he'll have to be aware of, but I think that's more of a once you are in a series, you watch the tape, you know what to expect out of them.
Well, and the thing that I would worry about that is if they do go to the trailing three, Gasol tries to bite for a steal because he is a great anticipator.
Floor,
it's just if Embiid gets to it first, he's going to blow by Gasol. Yeah. That's the only thing that I worry is Embiid with a full head of steam going up against Gasol.
Embiid has got him beat on foot speed. I will 100% agree
But
with
in
that.
the post, I think that Gasol can definitely give him trouble.
Yeah. So I think that matchup-wise, it'll be interesting. But yeah, they've got the right guy to go right behind him with the small ball five in Serge Ibaka, who's had a resurgent year, who's still playing amazing defense. I thought he was probably like 34 or 35 at this point, but who knows what his actual age is. He's playing really well, so you got to give him credit. I'm with Sean. I think that if he's asked to take a smaller role in this team, he will adapt. I think he'll still be extremely effective, and he's known for his defense. He's known for that. He's grit and grind.
Yeah.
Like, I know we talk about grit and grind dying, but like he is the embodiment left of that at this point. You've got, it's him and Conley. So
well, and Zebo too just got waived by the Mavericks, and Tony Allen's gone. So
approximately 0 minutes playing time on the Kang. So
yeah, I think the thing with Gasol too, and I know this is going to be weird bringing this up because I don't think there's a ton of hockey fans from 2001 or whatever the Avalanche won it, but I think this might be similar to a possible Ray Bourque trade for the Colorado Avalanche.
Oh yeah, totally. Ray Bourque trade.
If you guys don't remember that, Ray Bourque was a great defender for the Boston Bruins and never got to the finals, and never had that ability to get deep into the playoffs, and never had that taste of championship success, but was one of the best defenders of his era and probably of all time. And he never had that opportunity, was traded to Colorado, finally got that opportunity, and seeing him finally reach the Stanley Cup and be able to lift it was this beautiful moment where he's crying on the floor. Like, he was a guy that deserved a shot at the finals. And I think that his brother Paul was the same way, where when he went to LA, he got that opportunity. We saw what Paul was able to do. Paul was much younger in those days, and actually Paul and Marc were traded for each other in that deal. I think Marc, this is his probably, if not his last chance, it's his second to last chance, because he's probably going to accept that player deal and be in Toronto next year. Now, will they be able to bring back Kawhi? That's going to be a big reason if they're able to get back to the finals. But this is for sure might be his last chance to get to the finals and be a huge piece, be a six-man and not be played off the floor. I think this is going to be where Marc Gasol empties the gas tank, per se. And this might be the last great run of Marc Gasol we can see, and he's going to be motivated. He's playing on a very good team that is fluid and can hide some of the inabilities that you're talking about, Ricky, with his inability to probably play quickly when the floor stretch out. I think Marc Gasol is going to be fantastic for this team.
Let me ask you this, because you mentioned him accepting, because to me this trade for the Raptors is not just about the playoffs. Like, yeah, you want to win in the playoffs, you want to go far, you have Kawhi, but this is a long-term move in general.
How?
Could we see, because you want to keep Kawhi, you're not just going to have Kawhi, you're going to want to go after either a big free agent, or they've been in talks before the trade deadline. They were one of the sneaky teams that we had mentioned and other teams had mentioned to try to go and get Anthony Davis. Yeah. The question I want to ask you is, let's say he accepts the player option like you said he probably will. What's the probability that the Raptors go, you're not the long term. We thought you were going to just not accept that and then maybe we could negotiate for a lesser deal or move on, that they try to flip him to try to bring in a different, like bring in either cap relief to try to get a free agent or try to flip him to free up cap room so they can make an AD
next year
trade.
If he accepts and then try to trade.
Yes.
Well, I think the only reason they're making the AD trade was to make sure they can keep Kawhi. Now that's off the table because I don't think they're going to be able to make that trade for Kawhi unless they are able. They want to give up Anunoby and then Siakam. But even then, I don't know if that really gets that done because again, Toronto's most likely not going to have a great number one pick, even if they give up 4 if they're keeping Kawhi and AD.
Yeah.
I think that was, that AD thing, I don't think any team ever got close. I don't think New Orleans wanted to trade him. And, LA probably got the closest, but that probably wasn't even that close because I think New Orleans was just going to be like, all right, what else are you going to give us? Even if they gave up 4 and all 5 of their players, they were just going to keep dragging on. I don't think any team got close to getting Anthony Davis. I don't think they're going to trade him until this offseason where they can get the breadth of every team's offer, and I don't think they're going to be able to top LA or Boston.
But will the Raptors try to move Gasol to try to free up cap space this offseason if he accepts it?
It's dependent on how he looks, how he gels with the team, and then also if Kawhi resigns. If Kawhi resigns, I don't know exactly what the cap space is like, but if they're able to keep Marc Gasol and Kawhi, I don't see a reason why you go away from him if it's working. Because, if you're going to have those 6 as, the same starting 5 and then Marc Gasol off the bench, or, Ibaka coming off the bench, whatever they find the best starting lineup to be with these 6 players, if he accepts, I don't see a reason to really go away from him. That's why I'm saying, it might be a second to last chance to win a finals, because if Kawhi does come back, you're obviously going to get that next shot. But I don't really see a pressing need to get rid of him unless Kawhi leaves, because then you're kind of trying to start the rebuild a little bit sooner, or at least the retooling, because you're going to have Anunoby, you're going to have Siakam, but you're going to probably look to move Lowry as well and Gasol and try to quickly.
It's $26 million in expiring contract. That's valuable to have on your team. If you're losing Kawhi Leonard at the end of this year, I think that following year of $26 million available could be very intriguing depending on how free agency plays out this year.
Well, I think it's dependent on what you get, what you're offered for Gasol too.
Well,
if you're offered something that like a first-round pick to a team, I think that might be a little bit intriguing. Because if a team could take on Gasol's contract fully in the offseason, then that 26 really doesn't matter because then you just freed up 26 going into free agency this year. So I think it's going to be dependent on what happens.
After, because player contracts are after the draft, so it's still you're still playing with it.
Can't they still free it up before free agency starts?
It's same time.
Okay.
Same time.
But I'm used to 2K.
I know.
You trade whenever in that fucking game.
Yeah.
But I think that with Gasol, it's more dependent on what Kawhi does, and that
100%.
What it should be. But again, we talked about how this changed the team. Do you think that this changes their standing in the Eastern Conference? Because I think that they're the best team in the Eastern Conference. We'll talk about that fully with Jake. But where do you think this puts them? If you had to power rank the teams a little bit, is this number 1 territory for the Toronto Raptors?
I refuse to answer the question until later.
Well, we didn't really. I mean,
no, I'm withholding. Withholding. They gotta watch.
The most I will say is it really doesn't move the needle for me. I feel like any of the 4 can beat any of the other 4 on any given night.
Is there any move that they could have made to move the needle?
Anthony Davis. That's okay.
Any realistic move.
Okay.
No.
Well, but that's fair.
LeBron James.
Just saying.
If they get LeBron James, they're going to win.
LeBron James.
I mean, I don't really hate that answer of Anthony Davis because Anthony Davis is totally going to move the fucking needle. So that's going to do it for the Marc Gasol recap. I think they're the best team now in the Eastern Conference just because of their depth, their now leadership as well, and Marc Gasol's now kind of revitalization, now more of an incentive to play a little bit harder. I think he's going to be more efficient than we've ever seen him before.
Memphis, why couldn't you get rid of Mike Conley too? If you're going to move one half...
And Parsons is coming back, y'all.
Yeah.
He gonna play.
I don't hate not moving Conley.
I don't know. I just feel like if you're gonna commit to a rebuild, commit to the rebuild. Don't keep around a max money contract if you don't have to.
But I think
unless you think that he'll be valuable, unless you think he'll remain valuable.
I think he might remain valuable, and especially once he gets to that last year, that it'll be easier to move, and they might get the most value for him.
Because we're thinking he's gonna take that player out. Like he'd be a guy.
The 2021
Yeah,
season.
no.
It's $34
I'm just asking.
million.
He's not going to turn down $34 million.
I'm throwing it out there. Would a team want to trade for him next year, and could Memphis maybe move him next year?
Could be interesting.
Kind of like they moved Gasol this year.
Could be Paul
I
George.
think he's definitely taking that $34 million. The one thing they talked about, though, is having him around to be Triple J's mentor. So
I like that, then.
Yeah. I think it's going to be an intriguing look for Memphis. But that's going to do it for the Raptors. Let us know what you think about the Raptors trading for Marc Gasol down in the comments below. But let's move into the next topic. Nikola Mirotic is now a Milwaukee Buck. The deal is Nico to Milwaukee, and the Pelicans get Jason Smith's expiring, Stanley Johnson, and then 4 second-round picks. What was your guys' immediate reaction to this trade? I thought it was a complete steal for Milwaukee.
No, I love this for Milwaukee. They're adding a guy who last year for the Pelicans added a boost for them in the playoffs. I know that it didn't end the way they had wanted to, but the Bucks are a team that need outside shooting, especially from that 4 position, and they get it from Nico, and they basically give up Jason Smith and a guy in Stanley Johnson who they flipped right away because they traded for him moments earlier with the Pistons and said, oh, no, you're going to New Orleans.
It was pretty much Jason Smith and Thon Maker for the 4-4, which I think is a great deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Stanley Johnson's a little more accessible for the Pelicans. They might have some use for him, potentially. But, the Bucks absolutely knocked out of the park with this. Nico is much needed spacing to this team. When he comes back healthy, you've got Big Splash Mountain at the 5. You can roll Nico at the 4, Thon at the 3, and then obviously you've got Chris Mid as well as Bledsoe. Like that's dirty, and also they get to play around with a lot of bench depth too. But I think this spacing address is perfect. It's exactly what they need because Giannis attacks the basket like basically nobody we've seen before.
Yeah, and
when he does so, defenses collapse. The Bucks have been one of the best teams at getting wide open threes all year. Since the start of the year, they had a ridiculous stat about it. But adding in another guy who's an absolute sharpshooter from the outside, great offensive player, Nico, he will hustle on defense, but he can be abused on pick and rolls. So that is the one thing that I have to say that, without... I don't know if you can have both Brook Lopez and Nico out there at the same time together because that just could create a huge liability.
And the biggest thing with that is your best defender is Giannis, who he's shown to be a rim protector.
He can guard 1 through 5.
Yeah. So the thing with him is you're going to have to be very flexible if you are playing those 3 out there with your defensive positioning because you look at the teams, and we'll use Boston and Toronto specifically just because, I think Brook Lopez on Marc Gasol will be, something that I think is fair. But when they go to the traditional starting lineup of Ibaka, that's going to stretch out Brook Lopez. Then you have Siakam driving on Nikola Mirotic, which I will take Siakam all day, every day. And then you have Giannis on Kawhi, which is just going to open up that lane for Pascal Siakam to drive a little bit more. So I think that's going to be something where if Nikola is going to be up against Siakam, Siakam might have some just killer games up against Milwaukee. And then if you look at Boston, I think this is where they're kind of leaving themselves the most vulnerable because Al Horford stretching the floor, that's going to leave the paint open with Brook Lopez stretching out. And then Giannis have to play back and down low because then you're going to have possibly Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward out on the wing that you're going to have to cover. I think that's just going to be a nightmare for them defensively if they're playing all 3 of those guys out on the floor, and that's where we're going to have to get very
Bud will have to be very good about his rotations. I think I absolutely love the move. It addresses a clear need. Yeah. They need an additional score out there, but it does add some intricacies with what kind of a rotation you will need to use.
It's hard to hate the move when you didn't give up this much.
Yeah.
You're improving your team no matter which way you cut it because you didn't give up a ton in value. It's just now how are you going to work the value? I think that you definitely improve your team, which is in the end what you want to do. And again, we talked about this. I think it's kind of like what they were trying to do in Orlando with Dwight with Giannis is just having that collapsing defense on it was Dwight in the post, and then Dwight would just kick it out and they'd swing it around for open threes. It's now going to be Giannis either in the post or Giannis driving and then kicking it out for open threes. It's going to be similar to that formula, but it's just now defensively, how can they really adapt to it? Do you see a way, Ricky, that they can adapt to it with at least Mirotic and Lopez in the starting lineup?
I don't see a problem. To me, it's not as big a problem as what you're saying because, like, you look at Nico and his teams when he's on the court have not been bad defensive teams, and he usually has plus in the plus minus, and he's rated well in the plus minus.
But
the thing is, too, with Nico, you don't have to play him at the power forward. You can also play him at the 3. He has spent a little bit of time at the 3, so maybe they have Giannis and Nico out there. Maybe it's like, okay, Giannis is at the 4, you're at the 3, or they just go, but who cares? We don't care who's at which because you're both forward.
Here's the thing with the plus minus can be totally screwed up. And if you look at New Orleans, what they were last year, and at least the last 2 years, when Nico came over at the trade deadline, Drew Holiday and Anthony Davis have been two of the, like, when those two are on the floor, the Pelicans have one of the best plus minuses just because of those two's ability defensively and then obviously offensively. And you have a rim protector in Anthony Davis who can stop guys driving and slowing down any guy who gets past Mirotic. So you have one of those guys in Anthony Davis, who's one of the best, if not the best defender in the NBA. Giannis is like that, but I think Giannis is going to be playing defensively on the perimeter, which is going to be something that is obviously going to slow him down. That's why I think with, if they go up against a Boston team and they just have, Tatum on one side of the court isolating Mirotic and Jaylen Brown on the other side, or flip-flop them, whatever you want to do, and Giannis is guarding the other guy if they're playing man-to-man, that's just going to lead for open opportunities for them to drive and attack Mirotic. And that's where I think the problems are going to end up lying, is just having smart coaches who can, really attack them. And then even then, Embiid's a fairly decent floor spacer as well when they're going up against Philadelphia. Tobias Harris driving on Mirotic, that's going to be something that I think they can abuse as well. Or if, God forbid, they play him with a 3 and, they have Ben Simmons driving on Mirotic, or they have, Jimmy Butler driving on Mirotic. Like, this is going to be something that I think they can abuse.
Nico can go straight up with guys. It's getting him on the pick and roll is where he really suffers, though. I think that's the thing, is if you start to see like a Kyrie Irving get to abuse him, Kyle Lowry if he's rolling in that series, I think that's where I would start to get concerned. But for the most part, I think like the Nico thing's been overplayed, and I get it. Play next to AD, it's very easy to make up for that.
Even this year where AD has missed more games, he's plus 1.5, which is top 20 among power forwards this season.
So he's a average power forward.
But I'm not saying he's anything like he's not supposed to be spectacular.
No,
but
that's the thing. That's why I'm saying like his defensive thing is maybe we've overblown it to an extent, but I think straight up he's not terrible. It's the help defense. It's the coming around screens, at which point he is abused. And I've seen it happen as a Bulls fan. I've seen it happen watching the playoffs last year. So I think that's one of the areas where, like, again, Bud is the guy you got to trust. And he's the right kind of coach, though. He took that Atlanta team of role players basically to the playoffs and their best season. And I think that by adding Giannis to a team of good role players, or above average role players in this case, he's got a lot of success.
I'm not doubting the coaching at all.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be fair because we tried to bring up as much negatives as we could for Marc Gasol. I think it's tough to find negatives in this trade because, again, you didn't give up enough value. I don't think you're hurting your team in the end. You're definitely helping your team. And again, we're talking offensively. This is going to improve their ability to shoot from the outside. Which is going to open for
as a backup too.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the reason why I feel like they had to make this move, because Ersan coming in off of the past few years, it's been like, oh, he's going to be really good. This year, he has not been anything really special for that team off the bench. And this is something where maybe they were feeling like, hey, we don't feel that confident in Ersan to be that second guy off it. If Nico isn't even starting and he comes off the bench, maybe we feel more confident in a Nico coming in rather than an Ersan because of how he's played this year.
Absolutely.
Well, and also you move away from Thon, and Thon just has not been able to be...
Thon make a shot.
He's not been able to make shots. He's also just not been able to be extremely consistent. And you look at their typical lineup, their starting lineup, like they have Giannis out there, they have Brook Lopez, they have Brogdon, they have Bledsoe, they have Middleton. That's been the lineup they've thrown out there for 44 games here. I think that it's going to change because Brogdon as a six-man is something that is just dangerous. And, we've seen Chris Midd play the 2 before. And having that length, I think, especially with Mirotic out there, it's going to be extremely disgusting. All those guys can pass the ball still. And Brogdon, he's going to be able to spell Bledsoe. And I think he's a better shooter than Bledsoe.
He's an amazing shooter.
Yeah,
come on, he's on our team in fantasy. You know how good of a shooter he is.
He's extremely efficient. So I think having those two spell each other in Bledsoe and Brogdon is going to be something that is going to be looked at a ton when it comes to Milwaukee.
So what you're saying is maybe, let me paint this out. Eric Bledsoe at the 1, move Brogdon to the 6-man, Chris Mid up to the 2, have Nico and Giannis just out there 3, 4, whatever, and then have Brook out there at the 5.
Yeah, Brook's at the 5. I don't know what they're going to do. Giannis or I think it's just it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It's whatever. Whoever forwards.
It's just going to matter the defensive matchup when they go man to man. I think it'd be interesting though to possibly. I know it's not technically legal, but I mean NBA teams still get away with it. Playing a zone. I think possibly just looking at putting Giannis in the middle of a 2-3 zone.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how it will work because then you have Mirotic closing out on shooters on the outside, and Brook Lopez closing out on shooters on the outside. But I think it's something that could be looked at. And then even if you throw out Brogdon out there and you have Nico or Giannis play the 5 and then Mirotic play the 4 and then throw out Middleton, I think that would be even something too.
I mean, if they go small, like they're deadly.
Yeah,
absolutely deadly.
I think that might be their best lineup. Although Brook Lopez has been fantastic. I think that might be their best lineup is going small.
One question I'll throw out there, because this trade, even though it happened a lot of bit earlier, it's how they got Jason Smith to be offered up in this trade. Does George Hill do anything for him? Like, is George Hill a guy where it's like, oh, we'll see what he does, or is he going to play some big bench minutes and help them in the playoffs?
I think that he's going to be definitely used. I just don't know to what extent, because he seems like a guy that, again, he's a veteran player. He's a good defender. He could be decent from shooting on the outside. He has playoff experience. I don't think he's an impact guy. I think he's a guy that can give you good hustle minutes. But I think with Brogdon and Bledsoe, those guys are going to get the bulk of playoff minutes. I don't think he's going to be a huge impact if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I think he's probably good for about 8 to 12 tops. Anything more than that, there's something not going right.
Mm-hmm. And I think that they're probably going to still use Tony Snell too, just because he has had spots where he has been a great 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
I think that they could look though, with a Snell, George Hill lineup at least coming off the bench, and having George Hill's defense and then Tony Snell's shooting ability from the outside. But I don't still see a way how this takes away minutes from Giannis at all. I still think Giannis is going to play like 42 minutes in the playoffs when it comes to it. So
42? That seems low.
Well, he's played only 40 in the past 2 series.
Yeah, but if he wants to win a series, he might need to turn it up a notch.
Yeah, I think he's going to be
Sorry, that was a knock.
I think he's going to be just consistently out there on the floor for the Bucks. And
they have a head coach. It's all the difference in the world this year for this team. So giving him another weapon, it's a great move.
All right. Where does this put them though in the Eastern Conference?
Well, they were number 1.
Huh?
They were number 1 on the standings.
They are still number 1 on the standings. So, and is anyone taking them still as the number 1 team though? We'll have to talk about that in the big thing with Jake, but
yes, and I feel like if I'm ranking moves right now as we're talking about them, this to me moves the needle more for the Bucks than Marc Gasol moved the needle for the Raptors.
Yeah, I disagree.
I actually agree with Ricky on this. I think the Bucks get much needed scoring, and it's exactly what the doctor ordered. You got spacing, you got scoring. And you now have a potential small ball lineup that is deadly from the outside.
A couple threes a day keeps the doctor away.
I don't see how this makes them a matchup nightmare at all. Like, I don't think this is a game changer. Like, it's going to help them, without a doubt. But I think Marc Gasol can help them win a series more than Nico can help them win a series.
But if you look at the wins Milwaukee has, like, it's a ridiculous number of double-digit wins. Like, their games are not close. And I think that's true to the point of Giannis early on can put them so far ahead. Yeah. And because his shooting, as long as his shooting around him maintains, he's in business. And I think this is exactly what they needed.
But even then we saw if we're relying strictly on shooting, and this is different because Giannis and this player are completely different. If we're relying on shooting, let's look at Houston. I mean, Houston last year went cold as fuck from 3, and that's how they lost the series. So if those guys aren't able to hit shots around Giannis, then is that going to drastically change this team's outlook? And
absolutely.
Mirotic isn't a guy that's red hot every single night. When he's red hot, there's not a player hotter, I think.
Klay Thompson.
Klay Thompson, that's 100% true. 37 and 3. 37 and a quarter. And 14 threes? What did he hit? 15 threes against the Bulls?
Stupid numbers.
But
it hurt us.
I think that, again, he's a guy that can go extremely cold. Bledsoe's a guy that can go extremely cold. Lopez, once he hits the playoffs, is he going to be able to? Because he was garbage in Los Angeles last year. I worry about their ability to go cold, and if that happens, Giannis can put up 40, but that's happened before in the playoffs, and they haven't done shit.
Right.
They haven't advanced to the second round yet. I think they're going to get to the second round for sure this year. But if one of these guys goes cold and they drop 2 games because of it, it's going to be a hard hole to dig yourself out of. So that's my biggest question, at least with that. I think Marc Gasol, though, that's it's a series changer because you could possibly slow down the Sixers' best scorer in Joel Embiid just because of his ability. You can take him from 28 a night down to like 20 or 19, and that's going to put more pressure on Ben Simmons, who's extremely young there. I don't think this is taking pressure off Giannis per se. I think it's just taking pressure off of other shooters.
If only Giannis was LeBron, man. LeBron is the only one that we have talked about in an East where it's like, oh, you don't have anything? Oh, you have a mediocre roster? Oh, he's still going to go to the finals.
Yeah, I wonder if that has to do with him being the best player of all time. But let's move into the next topic, and we are going to welcome on a special guest. I knew the moment that this trade went down that this guy was going to be on this segment. We're going to welcome in our patron, Jake. We're going to be having a special Jake segment next month, so definitely keep your eye out on that around the first or second week of March. But definitely keep an eye out on that. Jake, welcome back to the podcast, and we're talking about your 76ers making the trade for Tobias Harris, now having a starting lineup of Ben Simmons, J.J. Redick, Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid. First, talk about the reaction you had when you first realized that you guys were getting Tobias Harris.
Yeah, I was just talking to my friend playing PlayStation. He told me, read the Wojnarowski's tweet, and I didn't believe him. I kind of laughed. Then went on and I read it myself, and I was like, holy shit, they're going for it. Elton Brand is giving up everything to go for it. And, I mean, I was super excited, and even watching the game last night, it was kind of crazy that the Sixers actually have, 5 good players instead of 3. And, I'm excited that they finally, the process kind of is now complete, I would say. All the assets are gone. The 4 stars we wanted are here, and even watching last night, they kind of even had 5 stars after J.J. Redick just exploded.
Yeah, seriously, the best player in that game was J.J.
He was shooting fire.
Yeah, I mean, Joe was sick, but looking at that game, I mean, J.J. Redick rose to the occasion. The full trade as Philly receives Tobias Harris, Boban, and Mike Scott, Toby, and Bobby are staying together.
You can't split up greatness.
And the Los Angeles Clippers receive Landry Shamet, Wilson Chandler, Mike Muscala, who's now a Laker, Philadelphia's 2020 first-round pick that is protected, Miami's 2021 first-round pick that's unprotected. They got that in the Zaire Smith and Mikal Bridges flip, and then Philadelphia's 2021 second-round pick and Philadelphia's 2023 second-round pick. Dave, the question that we are framing this as is, do the Sixers now have the second-best starting lineup? If you do want to make the argument they have the best over the Warriors, be my guest. I don't think anyone's that dumb on this podcast. But you can go out and say, do you think that they have the second-best starting lineup in the NBA?
They do have the second best starting lineup in the NBA. They have 4 All-Stars. They've got an incredible wealth of talent out there. They pretty much went back and fixed the spacing issues they had by adding Tobias Harris on this team. He's a versatile wing who can run with the ball in his hands, out of his hands, doesn't matter. But that is vital because they just needed that. It was something that after moving Dario, they kind of lost out on. And obviously they've been sliding in rotational players, but it doesn't come close to the amount of talent that Tobias Harris brings to that team.
Yeah, I will say that Tobias Harris wasn't an all-star, but was a snub, kind of like Ben Simmons last year, losing it to Goran Dragic. But Ricky, do you think that you're at least agreeing with Dave, and I know Jake, that the Sixers now have the second best starting lineup in the NBA?
I mean, I want to say on paper, yes, they do. If you look at names on paper, yes, the 76ers should have the second best one. But I will say, it's not all about what's on paper. There is part of me that thinks oh, okay, if they went up against the Rockets could beat them in a 7-game series. They went up against Boston, although that series now becomes a little bit closer with Toby being on the team, but Boston still has a pretty good lineup. I feel like this is a question of yes, on paper they do have the second best lineup, but will this on paper lead to them doing anything once they get to the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think I need to answer the question. I think, again, on paper, they probably do. I think I agree with you that Boston's probably third. If they did have Gordon Hayward fully healthy and Gordon Hayward fully consistent, I think Boston would have a great argument with Kyrie, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, and then Al Horford. Mostly, though, they've been running Marcus Morris, Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Kyrie Irving, and Al Horford, and I would still take the Sixers over that one. But Jake, obviously the starters are there, but a big problem that you've been bringing up to me on Twitter and just every time you've been on this podcast is the lack of depth that the Sixers have. They got rid of Fultz. They got rid of Muscala, who you were not a fan of. Do you think that they've done enough to not only address the starting lineup, but do you think they've also done enough to address the depth on this team with acquiring Mike Scott, acquiring Bobby, and also getting Jonathan Simmons in the Fultz trade?
Yeah, I think without question they're the second best starting lineup in the league. I think off the bench, they definitely did a good job getting the wings they needed. I still think they're missing a second ball handler off the bench. I know TJ, I love TJ, big fan of him, but relying on him to play big minutes in the playoffs is not going to be great, I would think. And I'm really hoping people get bought out. I really hope Jeremy Lin gets bought out from Atlanta because he would be absolutely perfect. And I was kind of hoping Wesley Matthews or Wayne Ellington would come here, but apparently they'd rather go to Detroit and Indiana. And
get that playing time.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Boban off the bench fixes the need for the backup big man. And then we got the regional manager, Mike Scott, and James Ennis is just exactly what they needed. They need that player who's dirty 3-and-D and just doesn't need the ball in his hands off the bench, and he's perfect. Yeah,
quiet pickup in James Ennis. The one question I will go back to with would be the fact that Brett Brown did roll out Jimmy Butler as a point guard not too long ago. Do you think that that's a viable option if you're not able to get a guard in the buyout market?
Yeah, it's viable in the playoffs. I don't want him to have to play 40 minutes a game in the regular season like he did for Thibodeau back in the day. I don't think that's reliable for anybody to do long term. So I would like to get a second ball handler, but if they are forced to use Jimmy Butler in that role in the playoffs, then I think they'll be all right.
I think the biggest question now, Dave and Ricky, would just be the fact that we look at what happened last year in that Boston series, and Brett Brown was just such an Achilles heel to them winning that series, because you look at the talent, and they were in most of those games, especially the one in Philly, where, crazy shot thrown up by Bellinelli, I think.
Oh, my God.
To tie the game up and send it into overtime, and then just they weren't able to.
Should have won it, but that just does a little 3-point line.
Weren't able to execute in OT. Do you think that they now have the talent to possibly come over and overcome the shortcomings that Brett Brown does have as a coach and the ones that we've brought up on this podcast?
I think they do. The big contributor is really Jimmy Butler in all of this. He's someone who is known for being able to take over late in game, and he's proved that pretty much since he's been on this team. His instant transformation on this team was I think game 1 or 2 of him being here was him with a game winner. And it's just, he has that special factor when it comes down to the line. He's able to kind of guide these young kids through it because he is someone who's played in playoff runs. I don't want to say deep because he hasn't made it to a championship, but he's played in playoff runs. He's got that experience about him. He's a little bit older than a lot of these guys. I think he is that X factor to help guide them because Brett Brown may still have some lineup concerns and rotational issues. I know last year, there was the Ben Simmons conundrum of, well, Ben can't be on the floor, and then even when TJ was performing extremely well, they pulled him off because these are valuable minutes for Ben to have, and he's the better player, but he wasn't playing better that day. So I think that giving them that gluttony of top-end talent will help fill in for their bench depth. But Brent Brown, oh man, he is just... No, I'm going to say Jimmy Butler counters it. No, Jimmy Butler will counter whatever mistakes or foibles he makes.
Ricky.
Brett Brown's the scapegoat. He's getting fired at the end of the year. That's what I think.
Even if they win a championship?
No. Well,
he's getting fired no matter what.
I don't think the Philadelphia is going to win a title. Even if they get to the finals, I think the Warriors, no matter who they play, would win. And against any team in the East, maybe the Bucks would be a team that could give them a run. Well, the Celtics would be interesting. We're going to get into that though. Yeah. But for me, it comes down to the rotations for Brett Brown, and I feel like Dave was saying, can this front-end talent of hey, if our starters ball out, can that be enough to counteract? And I'm going to say no because I feel like the two guys that I look at that are going to be most important, of course TJ will, but the additions is Boban and then Jonathan Simmons, where Jonathan Simmons is a guy who gave at least 20 minutes a night in Orlando. If he gets that same kind of average in Philly, what are you going to give at that 2, at that 3? But then also, Boban, what are you going to do when you're on the court, and will that be enough? But
Boban's like the most predictable person in the NBA.
But the thing I don't believe in is I don't believe that Brett Brown is going to put them in the right situations to be successful. Where in the playoffs, we are criticizing Brett Brown's moves, and then Philly will make a move because they want to win a title with these players, and they're going to have to renegotiate with Toby if they want to keep him after this year.
Yeah, their plan is they want to keep all 4 players that they received, and if they're trading what they did to get Tobias Harris, they definitely better keep him. But Jake, talking about Brett Brown putting him in the right situations, what do you think this team and these 4 stars plus JJ Redick plus the bench depth that you've acquired, what do you think the right situations are for the Sixers to be successful and possibly leading into the next conversation to be the best team in the Eastern Conference?
Their bench just can't. The Sixers have a very big problem of deciding to blow 20-point leads in about half a quarter.
Yeah.
It always happens. It's either right before halftime or right at the end of the third quarter. They always do it. So if they could just not have to play Furkan Korkmaz or Amir Johnson in big minutes because they finally have bench pieces. I mean, I much rather would have gotten Terrence Ross and Jonathan Simmons from the Magic, but I guess they didn't try. But I just think if they could just find some consistency on the bench defensively, they'd be fine. The scoring isn't the issue. That starting lineup's going to give you a lot of points, and especially if JJ Redick's going to keep going like he was last night.
Just say 100 points.
100 points. Literally, we got the James Bond villain, Boban. We got James Enestina with hit threes, and Mike Scott. I don't know exactly what to expect of him, but as long as they can bring us like consistency defensively, that's all they need.
Well, I think one thing, too, is hopefully Mike Scott can bring you some shooting. Because he is a guy who can stretch the floor a little bit, and hopefully he can be similar level to Muscala. Because I know Muscala wasn't great, and you weren't a huge fan of him, but
I don't like
Muscala was required to play more minutes than I think Mike Scott will be. So if he's doing the same thing in less amount of minutes, I think it'll be something that's a little bit more palatable for the 76ers. Final question that I have for you guys is, how does Tobias Harris kind of help this team? Is there any way that Tobias Harris hurts this team? Personally, I think it's a great addition because, Dave, you brought up a little bit about Jimmy Butler's playoff experience. Obviously, Joe and Ben had their playoff experience last year. The thing that Toby doesn't have is playoff experience. But to bring a little bit of baseball in here, I've been researching some things, and everybody kind of remembers, if you're a baseball fan, you remember Daniel Murphy's crazy run of in his first 9 playoff games, he had 7 home runs. Yeah. And I was looking up things. There was a guy who actually beat that. It was Carlos Beltran. He had 8 home runs in his first 9 games. And I didn't even know about that. I just found it through a little bit of research. The thing that they did have in common, though, was they didn't make it to the playoffs until year 7 of their career. Right now, Tobias Harris is a 7-year veteran. He's a guy that is, gotten a ton of playing time. He's played over 500 games in his career. He's gone every single place probably imaginable. He's gone in Milwaukee to start his career, Orlando, went to Detroit, and then to the Western Conference in the Clippers, and then now back to Philadelphia. He knows the Eastern Conference. He knows what it's like. He's very acclimated to this game. He's a guy with low usage that can put up great numbers, with putting up 20 points per game with a very low usage in Los Angeles. I think this was a fantastic addition. I know some people are worried about the 2021 Miami pick, but also it's Pat Riley out there. Mm-hmm. Pat Riley's not going to throw out a stinker of a team.
He's going to continue to overpay for mid-range guys.
Exactly, and they're going to be a fine team that makes the playoffs every single year. Yep. So, you might have lost a pick that's around 14 to 15. When was the last time Miami was this bad that they had a top pick? I think their best pick recently was Justice Winslow at 10, and then Dwayne Wade very long ago, and that was before Pat Riley even got there, I believe.
True.
So I think that Tobias was a fantastic pickup. But is there any way that they hurt him, or is it only a positive for Tobias Harris in the pickup room?
The thing that I think, and I'll just jump in really quick before Jake is...
Jake can finish it off, it's fine.
I feel like the biggest thing for Toby is he's not ahead. He's not an ego in the room. Where you've got Joe, you've got Jimmy, you've got Ben. They're kind of like your big 3. Toby's a JJ Redick kind of guy in my mind, where, yes, he's not as old as JJ, with being 26. Toby's going to come in and be the consummate veteran of I'm going to come in, I'm going to know my role, I'm going to find where I fit on this team, and then I'm going to fit into that role and do what I have to do to win. He's not going to be a guy that comes in and says, this is my team, or creates problems. And that is one of the best things that this does for the Sixers is, yes, he's going to help you on the court because he's a good basketball player, but also he's going to meld in, and whatever you role that he feels like he'll fit in, or whatever role you want to put him in, he's going to do that role because he wants to help the team win, and he's just going to be a good veteran for the Sixers.
Yeah, I think you nailed it when you said, he's a low-usage guy, but he can really excel in that role. He will let the game come to him, and that's one of the most impressive things about the Sixers team is when you have a ball handler as special as Ben Simmons, he's able to create mismatches and draw a lot of attention to himself driving the lane because of his limited skill set offensively, which means that if guys really key on him driving in, he can pull defenses in and set up better shots for players like Tobias Harris, who has absolutely no problem pulling the trigger on the outside. He's a great shooter.
66% in just one game with the
Philly.
It's one game.
Yeah. I know it's one game.
Small sample
he was
sizes,
2 of 3. He took 3 threes.
If he keeps up and has better than the
that would be a
42
record.
than he has, then yeah, he's going to be fine.
42 is amazing already. Mm-hmm. Like that's oh my god. They're thankful to have a 4 out there who can do that. But again, he can play small, he can play big. And I think he allows them to get in some really great matchups because he can switch on guys. He's not known for being a massively above-average defender, but he can at least hold his own, which is something you need when you're going up against those other teams who are so wing-heavy.
Jake, before we get into the best team in the Eastern Conference discussion, final question I have for you. I'm going to change it up a little bit. I don't think you see any negatives in this Tobias Harris trade, right?
No.
Okay. So what I want to ask then is, with this team, and we kind of alluded to this to you, what would be better for the 76ers? Well, wait, let me phrase it this way. At what point after making this trade in the playoffs does Brett Brown need to go to keep his job?
Okay.
Well, no, because we talked about that and I didn't hear your opinion.
Yeah. I would say Eastern Conference Finals at least. I think this team, like we'll hear later, is the best team in the East, and I think that they have the talent to go all the way. And they could lose in the second round, but if it's not blatantly his fault, I still don't think he gets fired. I just think, first of all, we had to see how the team gels. Obviously, the first game was good, but we saw that with Jimmy too. It was good, and then we went through rough patches. So we got to get past this honeymoon phase, and then we'll see, and then we can set realistic expectations for the team. And
then the final thing would be, if you're able to re-sign Tobias Harris, but Jimmy Butler walks, are you going to feel slighted about that? Because although you're not going to have 4 stars, you're still going to have 3 stars next year. So, I mean, will it seem as a loss if you're not able to sign all 4 guys next year? As long as you're able to keep 3, will you be happy as a 76er fan?
I'd be disappointed, but I really, honestly, with how Jimmy's played down the stretch, yesterday he was great. He was fantastic. 14 and 14 from the free throw, and he's awesome. But before that, I'm really hesitant to give him the 5-year deal because he's been pretty crappy offensively, and defensively he's always there, but he kind of seemed like lackluster, like not focused the last couple of weeks. Maybe with this trade he's like re-engaged, but we'll see down the stretch. I think getting Tobias Harris is almost a look at Jimmy going, if you don't re-sign, we still got this guy, and we're still a top team in the East. So if Jimmy truly wants to win, then he'd stay, but we'll see his true personality or demeanor if he doesn't stay.
But let's move into the main event after the 3-course appetizer, I guess, with the Raptors, with the 76ers, and with the Bucks discussion. Now we're talking about best team in the Eastern Conference. We have 4 guys. Jake's still joining us, if you haven't heard us. Jake, our lovely patron, who's going to be on a special segment next month. Super excited for that. But we're all going to take a team. So Jake's going to take a team, Dave's going to take a team, Ricky's going to take a team, and I'm going to make a team. And we're just pretty much going to make the argument of why they're the best team in the Eastern Conference. Indiana fans, sorry you're not a part of this, but you lost your superstar in Victor Oladipo. So we're going to...
Someone needs to tell them because they keep winning games.
They're on a 4-game win streak and 6-4 of the last 10. And they just got Wesley Matthews. So, hey, maybe they are the best team in the Eastern Conference. But I think most people would agree that the consensus best 4 would be Milwaukee, Toronto, Boston, and Philly. Shockingly, Jake, the Philadelphia 76er fan, thinks that the Philadelphia 76ers are the best team in the Eastern Conference. So, Jake, give us the pitch on why Philadelphia is the best team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, being completely not biased here, they have the best starting lineup the best team because the starting lineup is nobody can match up with them, absolutely nobody, and they have the only guy who can even somewhat guard Giannis Antetokounmpo and Ben Simmons. He's the only guy who can kind of be a freak of an athlete and actually guard him. They have Jimmy Butler, who's also a great on-ball defender, and then Joel Embiid is one of the best, if not the best, rim protectors in the league. J.J. Redick also is going to get a lot more wide-open looks in the starting lineup because everybody else can be focused on them. And they finally have a bench. They finally have at least capable players who come off the bench. I mean, this team is just incredible. You saw last night they played against the second best team in the West. Joel Embiid shot something like 4 of 17, and they still beat the Nuggets, who have a better record than them, I'm pretty sure. And they didn't even play that well. And that's the first game without any practice time, with nothing together. They still beat a top team in the West. And teams like the Celtics are 2-10 against the top 8 in the West.
The question I have for you, Jake, though, is right now they're 6.5 back of Milwaukee for the number 1 seed. Do you think it's possible that Philadelphia can make that run and become the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference?
No, I think 3 seed would probably be the ceiling.
Okay, but you still think that when it comes to playoff time, they will be able to make that run?
Yeah, Milwaukee's haven't won a playoff series, to be honest, so we'll be all right.
All right. Dave, you are taking the side of the Boston Celtics, the team that's currently in 4th, tied with the 76ers at 6.5 games back. They were the team that finished second to back-to-back years, right, against LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals, and now they haven't really lived up to the expectations. They were the preseason favorite to win the Eastern Conference. You're still sticking by them, though.
Boston fans, bet you didn't expect to see me here.
We haven't gotten a ton of Boston hate.
I know, which is funny because I talk a lot.
You've hated on Boston. You just haven't given, no one cares.
I guess not.
We'll just wait until we get Eric, one of our patrons who's from Boston.
Can't wait. But yeah, this is a Boston team where we haven't even seen them peak yet. Like, this is a super young team where putting together Kyrie Irving and a bunch of these wings, basically limitless wings, is their key to success. They are switchable everywhere. They are the team of the modern NBA. They're exactly what other teams are trying to combat. They pretty much just shoved a giant FU down the Sixers' throat to end last season, which was wonderful because exposing Ben Simmons for the phony that he was at the end of last year. I know, right? I'm going there.
You're going to watch it.
Taking LeBron James to Game 7, a game that they arguably should have won without their best player. I mean, this is a team that it just keeps getting better for them. They have Kyrie Irving, who, amidst the rumors about him potentially leaving, potentially staying, who knows, and I don't think Kyrie knows right now either, he is still one of the best players in the league. He's still one of the best ball handlers, period. When it comes down to it, they have amazing depth. They've got great young talent. Jaylen Brown's starting to hit his groove off the bench. Gordon Hayward, bit by bit, is getting better. You know how earlier in the season it was like 1 out of 10 games Gordon Hayward would look good? Mm-hmm. Now it's about 1 out of 5. And I think by the time we hit the playoffs, it's going to be much more consistent. So I expect this team to peak at the right time. I think there's a lot of teams who have had a great regular season, great first half of the season. They're patting themselves on the back thinking, we're setting ourselves up for success. Boston's a team that's going to take the whole season to get where they need to be. But when it comes playoff time, they're going to be all in.
Yeah, one thing to help your case a little bit, you're trying to peak at the right time. I know you don't have your laptop to back this up, but after their 3-game losing streak, after Monday, January 14th, they lost to the Heat, Orlando, and then Brooklyn. Since then, they've only lost 2 games. They were 8-2 in their last 10. They lost to Golden State and the Lakers on a buzzer beater.
That Lakers game was amazing, by the way.
Yes, it was. And since that date, January 15th to the present date, they've been 5th in net differential. So, I mean, they've been absolutely fantastic.
Marcus Smart is apparently an amazing three-point shooter. He's worked really hard to get there. Not only is he one of the best defenders, but now his shot is actually consistent, which is scary as all get out.
Both Marcuses, too. Marcus Smart and Marcus Morris.
Morris has been amazing all year, though.
Yeah, but he hasn't been that deadly of a three-point shooter throughout his career. Ricky, you are taking the side of the current number 1 team in the Eastern Conference, the Milwaukee Bucks. Give us the pitch.
No, I know Jake throwing a little shade at my team saying, oh, well, the Bucks haven't won a playoff series. But you know what the Bucks have done with this trade deadline a little bit before and now in it? They have added playoff experience. Before the trade deadline, a little bit before, they go, you know what? He wasn't doing that good. This year was worse than last year, or actually better than last year because LeBron wasn't there, and was kind of a little bit of a scapegoat in the playoffs, not as big as JR, but still a little bit of a scapegoat. We're going to add George Hill, who has that playoff experience, playing with LeBron, playing with that Cavs team. Oh, and by the way, team length, we're going to add a 6'9" power forward who can hit from beyond the arc that helped the Pelicans in their playoff run. I know they ran into the buzzsaw, which was the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
But 9 games, Nico lit it up last year.
Well, didn't he play with the Bulls the year before, too, in the playoffs?
Yeah.
He did.
He played with the Bulls, too. But it's like
extra
the
experience.
April-May is like April
flower experience, too.
It's April showers bring Nico threes. That's what it is. Not May flowers, Nico threes.
Nice.
And he's going to help this team out. I know right now he's battling the injury, didn't play their last game, but He's a guy that's going to help them from beyond the arc. This is a team that is better coached than last year. They have added playoff experience. They have arguably one of the top 5, if not top 10, players in the league in Giannis Antetokounmpo.
You could say top 5.
I'm going to say it, then top 5.
Pretty locked in.
Yeah.
And this is a team that, let's be honest, should have beaten Boston in that first round, but Boston got lucky in that game 7, and that catapulted them, gave them a little bit of confidence heading into their next round and then heading into the Eastern Conference Finals. This is going to be a different Bucks team than we've seen in the past.
I agree with you, too. And although they haven't won a playoff series with Giannis, I mean, that in the past 2 years, it hasn't been his fault. 25.3 points per game, 9.5 rebounds per game, 5.2 assists per game, 1.8 steals per game, 1.2 blocks per game, only 2.8 turnovers per game, and shooting 55% from the field, playing 40 minutes. He's been nothing but spectacular in those 13 games.
Fear the deer, man. Fear the deer.
However, we are the North, and it's finally the time for the Toronto Raptors. It is, because now we want to talk about playoff experience. This team is rich with playoff experience. Kyle Lowry has struggled significantly in the playoffs, but now he is not going to be looked at as the guy if one guy struggles, because you have Kawhi Leonard, who arguably in the past 3 years when he's been in the playoffs has been the best player in the playoffs outside of LeBron James. Because you look at the team that was unbeatable, the Golden State Warriors. He went down after they were almost about to beat them in Game 1, and I think that Spurs series and that Warriors series would have been hotly contested if he did not go down, and that was the only reason that they were in that series was because of Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard was the Finals MVP before shutting down the best player in the game, LeBron James. And you look at the Grizzlies series as well. I think in the same year, the Golden State one, he was a monster in that game, in that series, just absolutely dominating, taking over games left and right. He can do that. He can take that to the next level, and he's been resting this year. He hasn't been playing a full season, and that's going to be so beneficial when we get to the playoffs. It's not really because he's hurt. It's just to make sure that he's going to be fully rested and going. Kyle Lowry is one of the best passers in the league. We see the depth on this team, and we see what Nick Nurse has been able to do with this team. This team is not the same Toronto Raptors, just like the Bucks aren't the same Bucks team from the past 2 years. This isn't the same Raptors team from the past 3 years. They're not going to be choking in the playoffs because they have a clutch player in Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs. And I know I just talked about it in the Toronto Raptors segment, but Marc Gasol is the best pickup I've seen in a while. And I said it in the at least the segment that we did already, that at the time when we were talking about Marc Gasol possibly getting traded, I didn't realize how much I would like the acquisition, and until it happened, I didn't know how much I was going to like it. But this is a guy that he's been able to change his game so many different times. He's been Defensive Player of the Year before. He's been now a great three-point shooter. He's one of the best big men passers, probably not named Nikola Jokic, and he finally has something to play for. This is probably going to be the last time he could fully give a run to a team, and you just added him to possibly be your sixth man, and he's a guy that has been an all-star multiple times before in his career, all-NBA before, and he's coming off your bench possibly, and if Ibaka's not playing well, if Siakam's not playing well, you can move around and have flexibility in that starting five, and then put Ibaka and Siakam out on there in a second unit if need be, and that was one of your best starting lineups throughout the season. So this is a team with so much flexibility, now so much talent and depth, and also just leadership in Kawhi Leonard and Marc Gasol and Kyle Lowry. This is a team that is absolutely dangerous. And yes, Kyrie Irving's a fantastic player, but is he enough of a leader? I know Kawhi Leonard is. Is he?
Wait, did you just say Kawhi Leonard a leader?
When it comes to the playoffs.
Didn't you bash him last year for not being a leader?
That's fine. No, I did.
Murdered him the entire offseason about his lack of leadership ability.
Here's the thing, though, is that we're talking about the playoffs.
Is he going to play every game?
Yes, he's going to play every game. It's the playoffs.
I mean,
when was the last time he hasn't? When Zaza stepped under his foot.
I'm just saying, like, he seems very non-committal. Very non-committal out there.
This is Kawhi in the playoffs.
$13.5 million house in LA.
What was that? Oh, he bought another house in LA?
Mm-hmm. $500,000.
Yeah, $13.5 million.
No,
technically,
Technically,
it was San Diego.
Yeah, so we all listen to Bill Simmons then? Yeah.
But yeah.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I just think that this is a team that's rich with depth, rich with veteran leadership, guys who have been there before, and I think this was a fantastic move to get Marc Gasol, and it just makes me think that this team with the ability to again flex around their lineups, to bring in guys like OG Anunoby off the bench, to bring in Fred VanVleet off the bench, and obviously their starting five of Siakam, Gasol / Ibaka, obviously good old Kawhi, Kyle Lowry. This team is ridiculous, and I think they're crazy deep. Now what we should talk about is probably the weaknesses. And Jake, you want to start off with Brett Brown?
No, because I don't think he's a weakness.
Oh,
What's up?
you would be in the very, very small minority.
Well, here, what's the weakness then for the Sixers?
There is none. They're just the best.
The point is to talk about what you think is possibly a weakness on this team.
Oh, the possible weakness is the fact that they like to blow leads all the time because their bench is inconsistent and loses interest in games. But I think that could have been solved with these trades. I mean, at least I would say the same for Ricky's team. At least my players on my team actually want to be where they are. I mean, the Celtics, Kyrie doesn't want to be there. Raptors, Kawhi's obviously leaving, and they try to trade Kyle Lowry. At least with my team, as far as we know, Jimmy wants to be there. He's kind of the wild card. But like I said, I don't think I label Brett Brown as a weakness as everybody else does. Their weakness is having to play TJ McConnell 25 minutes a night off the bench in the playoffs.
I mean, he was a good player, though, last year for you guys in the playoffs. He was helping you win series. Brett Brown wasn't, so that's why I think he was a weakness, unless you think he's changed drastically.
I think there was an over-exaggeration blaming Brett Brown when multiple times during the game there was late turnovers by Ben Simmons that literally cost the game. And one time, off the inbound, nobody switched on to Al Horford off the screen. He got a wide-open layup.
Correct.
With like 10 seconds left. And the other time, Ben Simmons had an inbound when they were down one and just threw it to the other team. I mean, I don't understand how that's Brett Brown's fault.
I think that, late game, I think you have to be at least telling your players and making them aware of situations. I don't know if he did that exactly with Ben Simmons.
I understand that, but the whole thing with it last year was who the hell is going to take the last shot? I understand. And last year when Joel Embiid took the last shot, he got fouled and he didn't call it, and the NBA even said he got fouled.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I don't really see the blame when he didn't have as talented a roster as he does now. He had, who's going to take the last shot last year? You're going to give it to Dario, Robert Covington. Ben Simmons can't shoot. Joel Embiid, obviously you could give it to him, and they did, and he got fouled and they didn't call it. So, I mean, that whole series last year, I would not blame on Brett Brown.
It kind of sounds like you're talking like Ben Simmons is the biggest weakness for the 76ers.
He's not the biggest weakness. I mean, actually, you probably could say that.
Are you worried about his playoff production?
No, did you see him pull up for three last night? Almost make it? Almost?
Hit back iron.
Almost make it?
Yeah.
Almost make it? I mean, no, I think Ben Simmons is obviously a liability when he's off ball, but this year I've seen more of a consistency playmaking than I did last year. He's way more aggressive this year going towards the basket. Last year he would kind of defer a lot in late game situations, or even when there was like a big moment in the middle of a game. This year he kind of seems more willing to go after it. And maybe it's like his girlfriend sitting in the crowd and he just wants to impress her or something. I don't know what it is, but he actually seems like he wants the ball now and he actually wants to make a play. And with the acquisition of Tobias Harris and everything like that, you can't help off him whenever he drives. I mean, they used to, like I said, when they played the Raptors this year, they literally put Kyle Lowry on Wilson Chandler, and when Wilson Chandler was standing in the corner, because that's all he did, they would just help off. They would help off him with Kyle Lowry whenever Ben Simmons drove and double team. You can't do that anymore with this team. Everybody around Ben Simmons can shoot. You literally cannot help defense off. You cannot rotate defense over to him, or else there's going to be a wide open three.
Dave, what are the biggest weaknesses for the Celtics?
Celtics' biggest weakness, I think, it still comes down to their lack of aggressive rebounding. It's one of the things that has hurt them for the last couple of years. Not having someone who can absolutely dominate the glass leads to more second chances for other teams, especially a team like the 76ers where they have a great center. And now I look at the Raptors with Marc Gasol obviously adding just one of the best centers in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely concerning that they're not able to do that, but at the same time, you get contributions from everyone. I love watching Jaylen Brown absolutely high point balls on rebounds. It's exciting. He's flying in from the outside wing and going aggressively for them. Horford, again, he's not amazing at rebounding, but he's good at everything, and he's just kind of that consistent leader. But I would say that is the biggest flaw in their game right now, is their lack of rebounding, which means more opportunities for other teams. Outside of that, it's still, you got to asterisk Gordon Hayward.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting paid a whole lot of money for not a whole lot of production. So until we see it consistently, that's their number 2 problem.
However, the only thing I will say with Gordon Hayward is, when you come to the actual playoffs, it doesn't matter how much you're making. It's just can you make plays in the right situations? Because, salary cap doesn't matter once you get to, those games. Ricky, biggest weakness for the Milwaukee Bucks. You've been clicking away.
It's easy. Everyone except for Giannis and Chris Med. Because
so you make the addition and you're selling us in the addition of Nikola Mirotic, but you're like, he's a big weakness.
It's everyone besides those two has to step up. Because like I look at last year's playoff series, and I'm just going to take you through a little bit of story time with Grandpa Widmer here. Game 1 against the Celtics. Celtics won. Giannis had 35. Chris Mid had 31. Tony Snell played 33 minutes. You want to know how many points he had?
2.
He was Tony Snell.
Got it. Garbage.
His name is Tony Snell.
No, I know. But I'm just saying, like...
If you're counting on Tony Snell in the playoffs, you've done something wrong.
But you can look at other things, like Eric Bledsoe, 33 minutes, 9 points. Henson, 37 in that game.
Gone.
7 points. I know they're gone, but like still, the players that are there need to step up. Game 2, same thing. Giannis has his 30. Chris Mid had 25. Yes, some more people stepped up, but not enough. And that's what needs to be the center of attention is Giannis and Chris Mid can't do this by themselves. They're going to need, if you're getting quality minutes, you need to be hitting on your shots. Because if Nico goes cold, if Eric Bledsoe isn't hitting on all cylinders, then this team is weak. The biggest thing that's different, though, from last year to this year, I think they got a better coach this year, which is going to put them in better situations. But still, everyone besides Giannis and Chris Mid has to step up for the occasion in the playoffs.
A lot of liabilities.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up was the fact that I think that they realized that last year in the playoffs, and that's why they brought in Budenholzer, was to fix that offensively. And I think so far we have seen that they've been able to move the ball around. They've been able to get open shots for the guys that might not be able to hit more tightly contested shots. And we've obviously seen that pay off so far with how great this Milwaukee team and their offense has been flowing. So that you still don't think that's been taken away, though?
I mean, it could be with the Bucks. It's the two-sided coin. It's either going to be their greatest addition, their greatest positive, or it's going to be their greatest negative. It just depends on which way it goes. Good, it's great. Bad, it's going to be what we blame.
I think the biggest weakness, at least for the Raptors, is going to be, one, the inexperience of Nick Nurse in the playoffs. He hasn't been a head coach in this situation. Yes, he's been on the bench with Dwayne Casey for the past couple of years in the playoffs, but how will he be able to manage the games inside of playoffs, especially going up against Brad Stevens, who's been phenomenal in the past couple of years, Budenholzer, who has playoff experience as well, going up against Brett Brown, even, who has playoff experience from last year. That's going to be one weakness, and then obviously it's going to always come back to Kyle Lowry. I mean, he was a part of the Trash Bros with DeMar DeRozan. It's going to be a huge question. If he's able to hit his shots, he's able to go 38% from three, and he's not able to, he's not turning the ball over in clutch minutes, and he's letting other guys miss shots, I think that would be huge. But as long as he's able to be efficient, that's going to be massive for Toronto. But if he's not able to be efficient, that's going to take him out of games, and that's going to take them out of the, they're playing 4-on-5 basketball offensively, because that's what they were doing last year when he was completely off and just cold. He won't have as much usage as he did last year, which is going to be big. But can he also stay healthy will be a big problem, because he hasn't been a pinnacle of health recently with his back problem. So a big thing with them is going to be Kyle Lowry's health and his productivity.
And another thing, we bring up TJ McConnell as a liability during playoffs potentially with the backup point guard ball handler responsibilities. I would say Fred VanVleet, very same boat.
Yeah.
Absolutely very same boat.
I think he's a little bit more talented than TJ is. I think he's a little bit more well-rounded of a basketball player. He doesn't have the grit and grind and the effort that TJ McConnell does. But I do think that Fred has proven himself, especially last year, to be a better offensive producer. He doesn't turn the ball over a ton, which I do appreciate. And he does play fairly hard. So I think that he's a guy that, again, if he's not turning the ball over and he's hitting his shots, he can be fine. Where TJ is just not as skilled as Fred VanVleet is. But he will always put that effort in. And he's a guy that always gets his teammates rallied up in TJ McConnell. So I think that the depth is still there for Toronto. I'm not too worried about the depth, especially Fred VanVleet. You look at the playoffs last year. I don't think he was massively great, but no one on that team was.
Say, Jake, do you have an opinion, Fred VanVleet versus the GOAT?
I mean, I'm taking the GOAT. It's just simple. I mean, I don't know. Fred VanVleet's a good player. I think they're both liabilities, obviously, defensively. But Fred VanVleet definitely has more of an ability to stretch the floor than TJ McConnell. So I think he's more reliable come playoff time.
Yeah, I mean, last year he shot 28% from three and 33% from the field, and 2.2 assists to pretty much a turnover a game. If he's able to spread that out to what he's doing right now in the season, he's able to take that over into the postseason. I think that would be huge. And having now 13 games under his belt, going to be probably most likely 20 if they go to a 7-game series, somehow get bounced in the first round. That's going to be something that I think we're going to see the effects of. Final question will be, Jake, to you. We'll start off. Who is the biggest, or at least the toughest matchup out of these other three teams for the Philadelphia 76ers? Do you think it's going to be the Celtics? Do you think it's going to be the Raptors? Or do you think it's going to be the Bucks?
I think the Raptors. I don't think it's the Celtics. The Celtics are just throw out. I don't think they're even close. Also, Kyrie Irving.
You want to fight me, bro?
Kyrie Irving just got diagnosed with a right knee sprain. Just saying, so he's out now.
When isn't he?
Yeah, true. And so I think Milwaukee. Kawhi is obviously. I raved about him when we talked about top 10 players earlier in the year. I called him the third best player in the league. I still believe he is, and I think he has the ability to almost quietly take over a series defensively, and then offensively, he's going to give you 25 a night. If Kyle Lowry can just give them some sort of consistency offensively, then they're fine. He cannot go back and revert to how he was with DeMar DeRozan. Hopefully that was just because how bad DeMar DeRozan was playing. He also played bad. Milwaukee's going to have to prove it to me. They're going to have to win a playoff series first, and then maybe I'll believe. But if you can shut down Giannis, Chris Middleton played great in that Boston series, but he's going to have to play really consistent in big minutes, and I'm not quite confident he can do that, and I'm way more confident in Marc Gasol and Kawhi Leonard being able to carry the Raptors through a series.
Dave, who's the biggest matchup problem for the Boston Celtics?
It is also the Raptors. The Raptors are good, and it's annoying because they're good in places that hurt the Celtics. Pascal Siakam's epic growth this year has been unparalleled. I mean, it's something no one expected that he would take that next not leap in the right direction. He is scary in transition. He is scary off the boards, and he can stretch the floor enough to make you actually have to guard him. So the combo of Serge, Pascal, and now Marc Gasol does concern me as a Celtics stan. Yeah,
you're a huge Celtics stan. Siakam's been ridiculous. Nothing you'd expect from a guy out of New Mexico State.
And it's funny because I had it pegged as OG was going to take that next step, but really he's kind of stayed even regressed a little bit, not shot.
Yeah, for sure. Ricky, you gonna go 3 for 3?
No, for me it's the 76ers.
Son of a bitch!
I feel like, and here's the thing, I feel like the thing with the Bucks, and if I would have looked at this at the beginning, I would have been like, ugh, I would have second guessed it. If the playoffs were to start today, you want to know who would have the best road out of all four of our teams? Your team, Sean.
The easiest?
The Raptors. Yeah, the easiest. Because, I look at it where the 76ers and Celtics would have to play each other. That's going to be a hard series.
We know how that goes.
Then when the Bucks do beat the Heat, because there's no way that the Heat would beat the Bucks, the Bucks then have to play either the Celtics or the 76ers, where the Raptors, they'll play the Hornets, which they should beat, and then, I get either the Pacers without Vic or the Brooklyn Nets, who just lost to the Bulls. We add Otto Porter, and assumingly we can beat the Brooklyn Nets, so I would assume the Raptors could. They're the team that I look at right now. If it stays like it is, and of course 3 through 5 could change because the Pacers, Celtics, and 76ers are so close, the Raptors could end with a very easy road on paper.
Yeah. I think the biggest matchup problem for the Raptors is going to end up being the Indiana Pacers. Kidding. I thought someone was going to laugh.
No, just daggers.
Yeah, no, that was horrible. I think it's probably going to end up being... Milwaukee has given them tough series in the past before, but Kawhi Leonard on Giannis, I think that's going to be a favorable matchup. Well, not favorable, but probably one of the most favorable matchups you can get on Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's still going to put up great numbers.
I would have loved if you said the toughest matchup would have been themselves.
Oh, I was thinking about saying that. I just didn't want to be a huge asshole. Because it honestly could be. If Siakam's not playing great, that's going to hurt himself. If Kyle Lowry's not playing great, that's going to hurt himself. If Marc Gasol's playing like he did in December, that's going to hurt them. If Serge Ibaka is going to regress to any Serge Ibaka that's not this year, that's going to hurt them. If OG Anunoby's not going to come off the bench... that's what I said. If he's not playing like he was, if he's playing like he was in December, it's not going to work out. Yeah. If OG Anunoby continues to be, bad, then it's not going to work out. If Fred VanVleet turns to trash again, it's not going to work out. That's a big problem. And Budenholzer is not, Nick Nurse does, could just totally shit the bed like Brett Brown did last year. That's my opinion, Jake. Sorry. I think the team that would give him the most trouble though would probably be Boston, just because of their defensive, versatility. Because Siakam's a weird matchup, but also Marcus Morris proved last year that he can defend LeBron James. You look at Al Horford on Marc Gasol. I think it's veteran versus veteran. I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup. both on both sides. I think both of them can really kind of cancel each other out, both defensively. And I look at, Kawhi Leonard. If Jason Tatum's going to play like he did last year, he can possibly slow down Kawhi Leonard. And then you have Kyrie Irving on Kyle Lowry. Kyrie Irving, if healthy, is going to win that matchup every single time. And if Gordon Hayward's playing like he can off the bench, well, there kind of goes the depth for Toronto because they have the best player coming off the bench.
And Jaylen Brown.
And Marcus Smart. So
I heard
think
you like
that,
switching wings.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing that I think if you're able to slow down Kawhi and you're able to slow down Siakam, then this team is beatable, and that's the only team that I could probably see giving them trouble. The Bucks are interesting just because of the fact of, obviously Giannis, they have Chris Mid, and obviously even the 76ers too, because they have Tobias, who's not a great defender, but still is lengthy enough to possibly slow down Siakam. But Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, I mean, those guys are huge, and I think Simmons can definitely guard Siakam, and Jimmy Butler is one hell of a player. I mean, he's a guy that is always going to give him 100%. On the defensive side, he's going to try to prove that he's better than Kawhi Leonard. That's the kind of guy that Jimmy has, the mentality that Jimmy has. But I think the 76ers kind of get canceled out because the team that I think has the most opportunity to shut down or slow down Joel Embiid is the Toronto Raptors with the addition of Marc Gasol. I think he's the best matchup against Joel Embiid that any team has in the Eastern Conference. So I think that's kind of the reason why I'm a little less afraid of the 76ers. Also, again, I'm not huge on Brett Brown, and we've seen before if Kawhi Leonard is possibly able to slow down Ben Simmons on the offensive side or Pascal Siakam, that will obviously slow this team down a ton because you don't have a secondary ball handler. If you're shutting down their first ball handler, that ball's not going to move. And then I think you look at Milwaukee. I mean, Toronto has proven that they've beaten them before. And if you're letting Giannis beat you, you just got to shut down everybody else. And I'm much more afraid of Giannis just putting up, or I'm not that afraid of Giannis putting up 40 and shutting down everybody else. So I would say that it's probably going to end up being Boston because this is a team that Toronto hasn't beaten in the playoffs in the past couple of years. So that's probably going to be the team that I fear the most. Jake, final thoughts on best team in the East?
Trusted the process all the way here. I'm going to keep trusting it, and I'm going to get us to the NBA Finals. That's about it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough road. You've got great starters, and if everybody plays 44 minutes, you might stand a chance. But beyond that, I don't know if you've done enough to fix your problems. I'm just saying, I got a young team.
Anything, so.
We didn't need to. We've got a better head coach. We've got better young talent. We've got better wing depth.
And you have more injury history.
More injury history?
So there's another plus.
I'm just saying. Well, I think that it's pretty obvious that Boston's going to go right back to the Eastern Conference Finals. And without a LeBron James there, they got the clear road.
Ricky, final thoughts on Milwaukee?
I really hope that the Pacers fall to either 4 or 5 and then get a shocker in the first round.
Out of
I have
all of us,
backtracked a little bit.
Yeah, you've sold Milwaukee the worst.
Can I do your job for you real quick, then?
I mean...
Yeah, well, who do you think right now after hearing it? Well, who did the best job of persuading you?
Who did the best job of persuading?
Who do you think's the best team in the East?
Well, the only thing for me is, everything on paper looks good for the Bucks. We've got home... We're going to have home field... I'm going to say we because I'm defending them right now.
Chicago
so
North.
I'm going to come out with a we. Oh God, that really pisses me off because you're not Chicago, you're Milwaukee. But
that's the point. That's why it's
discussion.
Chicago North.
Yep.
It's more of a disrespect to Milwaukee than it is Chicago.
Everything with the Bucks is home court advantage, better coach than last year. The talent around Giannis and Chris Mid are better. It's just for me, I am a little nervous about Boston and 76ers, like Boston and Philly in that second round. Not saying that the Bucks are for sure not going to win it, but if I'm choosing, I'd rather have the Pacers fall, maybe get an upset, see them in the second round instead of having to go against either one of those Bostons or those 76ers. But if you want to beat the best, you got to get through who the people think are the best, and that's what the Bucks will do.
I will say that I picked Indiana to be in the Eastern Conference Finals preseason. Mm-hmm. So as a Toronto Raptors stan for the second,
with Vic,
I was going to just make a joke. Yeah. Thanks, Ricky. Really appreciate you helping out the podcast. I was just going to say, I hope the Indiana Pacers also fall so we don't see them in the second round.
Okay.
Anyways, the Raptors are the best team. They have, I think, probably the second best player in the Eastern Conference. They have, I think, probably the best center. Second best center, because I'm not going to say over Joel Embiid. I kind of forget about him every now and then. Second best center in Marc Gasol. at least out of these teams. I think he's better than Al Horford. And then I think, Kyle Lowry is a guy that's been there before, and I think they have probably this, around the most amount of depth. And they don't have that injury history that Boston has. So I think that, the coaching edge goes to Boston, but I think the depth is probably equal. And I think, we've seen that, Kawhi Leonard has been able to come up in the playoffs big. And, they think they have a very pumped up Marc Gasol who's ready to win. And I think that this is a team that, is trying to redeem themselves, and they're making one final push to make sure Kawhi Leonard can stay and they can get to the NBA playoffs. And I think, or NBA Finals, I think now is the time for Toronto. But let us know down in the comments what you think the best team in the Eastern Conference is. Do you agree with Jake that it's the 76ers? Do you agree with Dave that it's the Boston Celtics? Do you agree with Ricky that it's the Milwaukee Bucks? Ricky doesn't even agree with himself. Or do you agree with me that it's the Toronto Raptors? Jake, final thoughts after the double segment.
Thanks for having me on again, and I really can't wait till next month. It's going to be interesting.
Should we ruin the surprise, or should we keep it a surprise?
Keep it a surprise.
It's a surprise.
All right.
Keep it a surprise.
I also cannot wait. We're going to have Joel Embiid on the podcast with Jake. So let us know your thoughts down in the comments.
Get my pants.
And Jake, thank you for the support as always. But let's move now for a little bit of a break in the trade deadline. We'll talk about the Celtics landing AD possibly next in the offseason. We'll talk about the Kings making the playoffs, Clippers, Fultz, Otto Porter. That's all coming up. But we'll take a break for Wet Boys. It's our weekly segment where we talk about the dampest of dudes, the soggiest of shooters, the moistest of men. These are our Wet Boys, the guys who absolutely popped off in the past week. The results have come in. We had one single vote saying no to James Harden being a Wet Boy.
One person, 3 comments.
Yeah, but I think the other one was
I'm saying the guy who voted in had like 3, and then there was someone else that commented something totally different.
But wasn't it the guy who said last time I was this early, I was in my dad's nutsack?
That was a different guy.
Okay,
that was the
different video or same?
No, same video, different guy.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. Yeah, the only other it was no, and then I was so early,
and then I made a Blue Mountain State reference.
Yeah, so let's jump
Real
into
disappointed in our fans there.
Guys had fantastic weeks. Dave, we'll start off with you. The redemption story.
James Harden. Screw you. He deserved it last week. He deserves it this week. 38, 8, 5, shooting 52% from the field, and a easy going 46% from 3.
Okay, but last week he had less points, right?
By 1.
Less points.
By 1.
On worse efficiency. 12 differential in the field goal percentage. He had a shooting 40%, and then a whole 20% differential on the 3-point percentage.
The man got his points.
So if you're averaging 38 on 52 and 46, yeah, you're going to be a goddamn Wet Boy because that's impressive as hell. I think
but 37 and less great ratios, whatever.
Would Kobe be a Wet Boy for 60 points on 50 shots?
Yeah, because it was Kobe's going out party.
Okay, but take away from the going out party, and if Kobe put up 60
on 50 shots.
He
had the most
shots,
Kobe game ever. I don't want to hear it. You can't tarnish Kobe.
He wasn't a Wet Boy though because we weren't giving those out. So James Harden back in the good graces. I think he's now at a record 8. You're up in there right now, Ricky?
Yeah, he did it.
Is it at 8?
Yep.
Okay. So he's now at 8, and next guy, because I think Giannis just got, or well, I guess I spoiled it, but it's in the thumbnail.
He's at 2.
He's at 2. Mm-hmm. So what's the third place?
So it's James Harden at 1. Tied at 2 at 3 is AD, Derrick Rose, Steph Curry, and Luka Doncic. And then at 3, it's LeBron, KD, Kawhi, Clay, Blake Griffin, Paul George, and now Giannis.
All right, there we go. And a 5 differential in Wet Boy is absolutely insane. And James Harden's most likely going to get another one because he has 25 at the half right now.
Bro.
Ricky, we'll go back to you. Who is your Wet Boy this week?
So I had a little controversy here. I had come out with a Wet Boy, said, you know what? It's got to be Bobby P. Like, Bobby P's the Wet Boy. He had 30 points or 33 with the Bulls, 30 points in his first game as a Wizard. And then I thought to myself, and I'm going to be brash here, Dave, so be careful.
Yeah.
Fuck Bobby P. He ain't a Bull. Plus, he's petty as shit, so I ain't giving him a Wet Boy. Got to give it to my boy, Lauri Markkanen. Not just 2 30-point games, had 3 30-point games. First time he's ever done that in his career. Bulls beat the 6th seed. Come at me, Brooklyn. We going for a top 5 pick. You going for the playoffs, and we beat you. You should be scared, and you should be feeling pathetic because you lost to the Bulls after we get Otto Porter.
No,
Lauri Markkanen.
Let him do whatever he wants.
All right.
Why are you throwing it? You were
what?
saying
I'm throwing a little shade. Throwing a little shade at Brooklyn,
No
but
one
really
cares.
the shade
Brooklyn
at
doesn't give a shit
But
about
really
you.
the shade at Bobby P was gonna give him a Wet Boy. But
you don't
he
feel
petty.
bad for him that he just got traded from a place that he was very tied to?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just
Chicago.
saying the comments are very petty. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it to Markkanen for his performance because he deserves it.
I mean, you're siding with Pat. Garpax right now.
I'm siding with
And
Lauri
Jim
Markkinen.
Boylan.
No, you're siding with Garpax.
I am
Jim
siding
Boylan.
with Lauri Markkinen.
Well,
That's who I'm
he's
siding
petty
with.
that Garpax traded him. So I'm just saying that you're on the side of evil. We'll go to my side. This guy's not evil. This guy is a huge superstar. After the NBA draft, I could not get into him. The NBA All-Star draft, and especially after this week. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 35 points per game, 12 rebounds per game, 5 assists on 66% shooting from the field, and 36% from 3 on like 2 a game. That is awesome. Shout out Giannis. And the line of isn't that tampering when he takes LeBron takes Anthony Davis. Giannis was an absolute star, and I'm so glad that he was the captain of the All-Star
Not
team.
just that, he took KD, he took Kyrie, he took all the free
It was the
agents.
LeBron recruiting game.
And I think that LeBron clearly has a better team, but Giannis was funnier. So Giannis was he's so lovable. And we were talking about this last year. Is he a star? He is a goddamn star. But it's now the question of, like, is Milwaukee going to be able to contain his stardom? Because that was the one question we had last time. Obviously, the last huge star they had was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to that level. And he wanted to move away. So
We asked that question when we were still sitting the hard G.
yeah, Giannis.
So much hate.
We're so mature now, and we'll see if Giannis stays. I think he most likely will, but Giannis is a star, and it's fantastic to see that Milwaukee does have a star in such a small market. So shout out to Giannis, shout out to Milwaukee, and shout out to the NBA for putting out the NBA All-Star Draft. I probably still won't watch the game, but that was some fun shit. Anyways, that's going to do us. Let us know your what boys down in the comments below. James Harden back in the good graces. Giannis getting his second, shockingly, very low for him. And good old Markkanen, 30-point game or performances. And right now he's got like 18 heading into the fourth. So we'll see if he can put up 12 to make it 4 straight. But let us know your what boys down in the comments below. But let's move into the next topic, and that is the Sacramento Kings. Kings making moves. They get Alec Burks and a second-round pick along with Harrison Barnes. They give up Justin Jackson, Zach Randolph, and they gave up Amon Shumpert as well. Those were the big pieces that moved. I think they also gave up a second too, but they ended up getting that back with the Alex Burks trade. So that is the moves that the Kings have made in this trade deadline. So post-trade deadline, they are 29-26, 10.5 games back of first place, the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference. They are 1 game back of the Clippers in the 8th spot. We are talking about the Kings for the first time in the season, and I have to make some apologies before we get into the trade reactions and obviously the title. Can they make it into the playoffs? This has been a team that I think we've been given love ever since the De'Aaron Fox pick. We trashed them so much since the start of the podcast, then to the DeMarcus Cousins trade, and we were giving crap to Vlade Divac and Vivek Ranadive, and until that De'Aaron Fox, acquisition at the draft, and then obviously the signing of Dave Yeager. This
Not just De'Aaron Fox. You gotta give credit to Harry Giles as well. I was like,
hasn't been as great.
hey, obviously not as great, but expectations accordingly.
I think it came down as well when they took Marvin Bagley over Luka Doncic. But all in all, I think I do have to apologize because I did not think the Kings would be in this position. I thought the Lakers would be better than they are right now. And the Lakers have a worse record with the best player in the league, although LeBron has been injured. I just have to say,
by a game.
Still better. I still have to say that the Kings deserve a ton of credit. Shout out to Sacramento and their fans. They've gone through a lot. I used to be a Kings fan when I was little, back in the time they got screwed by the refs in the Western Conference Finals.
Wooden Award winner. Put some respect on that
I
name.
am doing that right now. Just shout out to Sacramento King and the Kings and what Vivek Ranadive and Vlade Divac and Dave Yeager has done to this team. They've been one of the better teams to watch this year. And Dave, they're pushing in on a playoff spot. Like I said, 1 game back of the 8th spot in the Western Conference Finals or in the Western Conference playoffs. Do you think it's possible that they can make the playoffs this year?
Hell yeah. And that's an emphatic yes. Like this is a team that I know on the side Sean and I have talked about a lot, and it's a shame that we haven't had a great topic to land on the show. So a lot of excitement around this. I absolutely love this team. De'Aaron Fox has been a huge growth from year 1 to year 2. His shot has looked good, and that's one of the most concerning things was like, well, his motion's good, but it's just not adding up to now like, oh, he's hitting that shit and it looks legitimate. They've got a fantastic 6-man in Bogey. He comes in off the bench. He makes sure things keep running. They're able to use him in those extended lineups towards the end of games. Belly has been fantastic for them. He is, obviously, he's cooled off from the start of the year when he was shooting like 50% from 3, but they have a great, fun, young core. And I swear to God, it's them and the Nets are just the most fun to watch in the league right now. So love the team. They can absolutely make a run for the playoffs. Harrison Barnes, an NBA champion, someone who's been there, done that. Honestly, not on his shoulders, but he was a contributing piece to it. I think he's a great add to this team. And the big thing for me is that they can insert him without messing up the sync of the team. They have a great flow, really good pace, and they're getting really good play out of their bigs right now. So I hope that ball movement doesn't hold up, because what we've seen out of him in Dallas was he was a very much ISO player. But I think that I would like to think that's because of the guys around him and the situation he was put in. So hopefully he's on a team now with a bunch of young talent. He can go ahead and go back to just being, a 3-and-D guy. And if he needs to, he can put the ball on the court.
Well, and the thing, too, with Barnes, I think they paid him that much money, expecting him to be more than what he was.
Right.
And then the fact that he wasn't, I think that's been the disappointment. But Ricky, he could possibly bounce back, Harrison Barnes is. But even outside the Harrison Barnes thing, the 20 or the 50-something games they played without him, this team has been fantastic. I think we got to give him a ton of credit for that. But do you think this is enough to hold up? Because, yes, they've had some great runs this year. They have a ton of youth coming up. We're getting into the second half where we've seen young teams collapse. Do you think this is possible? And do you think maybe getting a veteran like Harrison Barnes will help them keep this pace?
I don't really think, A, I don't think they're going to collapse. B, I do not think that it's more of like Harrison Barnes come in, he's going to be a veteran leader. I kind of see this more as like a island of misfit toys kind of a thing, where you look at most of the players that they have been guys to where it's like, for example, Buddy Hield's a big one, where it's like, hey, I was on a different team and I probably wasn't respected like I should have been. I come over to Sacramento, kind of flourishes. And that's what I'm maybe expecting from a Harrison Barnes, where it's like, hey, change of scenery. There's no real big expectations on you. This team is already cooking. They're moving. They got a good feel to them. They go ahead, and one of the moves that I don't know if you mentioned was they move one of their big men as well. Yes, they get Caleb Swanigan, but they move Skal Labissiere away from the Kings as well.
He did not get his own spotlight segment.
And no, he did not. But they move him. Amon Shumpert's no longer here. Yeah. Harrison Barnes is going to be change of scenery, no pressure. This team is kind of running free, where it's like, yeah, we're a playoff team. I feel like he's going to have a good time on this team, and because of that, he's going to be a little bit more loose, and we could see a better Harrison Barnes with the Kings.
I think a huge thing about Harrison Barnes, too, is just him getting in his head ever since that finals where he couldn't hit anything.
The brick lane contest?
Yeah, so I think that's been something, too. I don't know if he's going to be able to get out of his head, because maybe he even gets to the part where you're overthinking things, and you're like, well, this is going to be a fun, loose team, and I gotta come in, and I'm still making a ton of money. I'm the guy who's making the most money on this team. I gotta produce. He might be able to still get in his head, but I think one thing that is going to help him is that this pace for the Kings is massive. They are a team that loves to run. He is an athletic guy. He can attack in open space, and I think also that running ability, and if he's able to get to his spots, that's going to lead to spot-up threes. And I think that's going to be something that can help him a little bit, because when we did see him at his best, it was in Golden State. And, we talk about Golden State all the time. Their pace was massive, especially early in that start of the dynasty. It was just run up the floor, get open, and we'll hit you for a three. And that's something that maybe going back to that environment, he's still a young player, still has that ability to get up and down the floor. That might be able to put him back into his own element. I've been loving what the Kings have been doing. However, I will say that I think it's going to be very difficult for them to make the playoffs, just looking at the way the standings are shaping out. Yes, they are only a game back of the Clippers right now, and I think that they are going to be able to jump the Clippers. When we look at the end of these standings at the end of the year, the Clippers are going to be below the Sacramento Kings. That's for sure. But it's really the team that's behind them in the Lakers that's the biggest question mark, because, yes, they've been playing better than the Los Angeles Lakers have been, but LeBron James hasn't been on the floor for the whole season. And I think the biggest thing with this is you look at what the Lakers were when LeBron was fully healthy, And the Lakers at their best and at their healthiest is better at the Kings' best and at their healthiest. And I think that's going to end up deciding it, is that LeBron is a machine. The fact that he had a groin strain is shocking. That's his first injury in forever, and it's shocking that it happened after him playing like 3 straight years of 82-plus games.
And forever's not a parable there. It's the truth. He's never been hurt for any extended period of time.
I think he had like a couple stints in Miami who he played like 62 games.
Well,
but that's the most.
Cramps. The cramps are the last thing I remember immobilizing LeBron.
Yeah, so and I don't think he's going to be immobilized again. And this is a team that, again, still has LeBron, so they have the ability to win any game with him in that. So I think that's going to be the biggest test that they have. And then it's really, can like the Spurs fall down? Can the Jazz fall down? Can the Rockets fall down? Can the Blazers fall down? I think the Blazers are pretty lock solid. I think the Thunder are lock solid. I definitely think the Nuggets are rock solid. With James Harden continuing to put up 30 every single night, I think they're rock solid at 5. Utah has been 20-12 for a very long time now. In their past 32 games, they have been well above 500. I think the Jazz are kind of figuring things out right now. 7-3 of the last 10 on a 2-game win streak, and they have a plus point differential of 3.4, where the Kings have the third worst point differential at a negative 1.5. So I think that it's going to end up coming down to, can they jump the Lakers and stay ahead of the Lakers? And I don't know if they really can.
Well, one team you didn't mention, I mean, the team that was down, 21 points at half to the Celtics in the Garden, the second straight LA team to go into the Garden and get the win. I mean, the Clippers, if they keep shocking some people, right now they actually, with this win, knock the Kings out of the playoffs. Like, the Kings were in the playoffs, now they're at the 8th seed.
What?
They're another team. The Clippers.
The Clippers are already the 8th seed.
Clippers are already the 8th seed.
Oh, I refreshed my page and changed it. No, I refreshed my page.
I started at the top of the thing saying that the Clippers are the 8th seed.
We've literally written off the Clippers.
They are a
listening
team
to this segment
that could, they beat Boston tonight. They're a team that could shock, and even if it's not the Lakers, could be the Clippers. But I think the Kings will be fine, and it'll be between them and the Lakers.
I feel like this was just one more time Jerry West giving the Celtics the finger. He's like, guess what? I moved some pieces around. I made your road in the East harder by giving Toby and Bobby up. And guess what? You're not going to get our pick this year, because I'm going to lose a bunch of games and get our pick back.
But before I do that,
the
I want
Kings
to beat
pick is going to be worse.
The Kings pick's also worse. And before I do that, I'm going to beat you one more time.
Yeah.
All praise to Jerry West.
After being down by 21, we win by 9.
If you had to power
11,
rank,
I'm sorry.
Dave, let's say the Jazz, the Spurs, the Clippers, the Kings, and the Lakers.
That's a lot of teams.
It's 5 teams.
Yeah,
so
I know.
the
I'm
Jazz,
on a computer. Thank you, Ricky.
Do you want to write down?
No, I'm good.
I got
The Jazz,
it.
Spurs, Clippers, Kings, Lakers. If you had to power rank those rest of the season, where do those teams land?
I would say, if we're starting from an even footing or record right now, where they're down.
Right now. Well, no. I mean, who do you think, from now on, will have the best record? So, out of the Jazz, Spurs,
going with
Clippers.
The Lakers at 1, the Jazz at 2, the Kings at 3, Spurs at 4, Clippers at 5. I think the Spurs have been overplaying. I did not expect Bryn Forbes to obviously show out and be an absolute stud behind the 3-point line. DeMar DeRozan's shooting has become cancerous from the outside, and I don't expect them to hold up. I really don't.
They're on a 4-game losing streak right now.
And they need to keep losing.
Yeah, then they're a game and a half back of the Kings. So are you saying the Kings can make the playoffs?
I am.
So you're saying the Spurs are falling out?
I think the Spurs and Clippers out, Kings and Lakers in, potentially the Lakers jumping the Kings in that aspect. But I don't care, because the Kings are going to get in.
Well, and the Lakers jumping the Jazz too, right?
I don't know if they're going to jump the Jazz.
Okay.
Because the differential is 2.5 right now.
That one will be close. I think that, I agree that
because I was just asking the power rankings, you said
good.
Lakers, then Jazz. That's why I asked.
The LeBron Jameses are good, but I don't know that they can make up that gap.
The LeBron
and especially if LeBron James needs another rest game in between some things.
Well, and also, too,
if
if one of those losses that the Lakers end up suffering is to the Jazz, that's even going to put them back a little bit further. Yeah. Which could be detrimental.
I like the Jazz. They're in a really good position at this point.
Ricky, I'm going to ask the same question. Power rank those bottom 5 teams.
I'm going to go ahead and go Jazz at 1, Lakers at 2, Kings at 3, Spurs at 4, Clippers at 5.
That's my guy.
Why the Spurs at 4 for both of you guys? Because what I will say is, yes, they've been struggling of late, but we also saw how bad this team was to start off the season, and then they had that jump back up. I think they still have another jump up in them.
I don't want them to win, is why I'm putting them there.
Why do you not want them?
Because I want the Kings in the playoffs.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
it literally comes down to, I would rather watch
selfish.
a young, energetic Kings team, which is super fun, rather than the old man Spurs just being the fucking unforgiving, we're the Spurs.
Zombies.
It's the playoffs time. We're here. You can't get rid of us.
But the thing you look at, the last 4 that you're saying they lost, at the Kings, at Golden State, at Portland, at Utah. You can say, yes,
opponents.
They're all on the road, but that's what I'm looking at, playoff opponents. The next game against Memphis, I'm sorry, Memphis, they should beat you. But then you're going at Toronto. You're going, New York played Toronto tough today. That's going to be in New York. Right. Yeah, they lost, but New York played them
they
tough.
haven't won a game at the Garden since December 1st.
I'm just saying, it could happen, and especially with a team
Ricky,
like...
you were 27 when they won a game at the Garden.
No, 28.
28.
Yeah, we're older.
29. But, they haven't won in 2 years.
You were 28 by a whole month, too.
But here's the thing.
December 1st, my guy.
Here's another thing, is their next 4 games, they're not going to be back in San Antonio till the 27th. Like, if they've already been on a road skid, you're not telling me that some more of these road games are going to be losing?
But here's the thing: is at home they're 22-7, so they suck away from San Antonio, but they're also one of the best teams at home.
They've got a really good roll to end the year on. Their last 3 games are Washington, Cleveland, Dallas.
Boom. So is that all at home?
No, it's at Washington, at Cleveland, home Dallas.
And you get the hardest game at home. I love that.
Yeah, but you look at the 3 before that. Yeah, you get the first 2 at home. The Kings will be tough. The Hawks, depending on how they're hitting, if Trae Young comes out hitting some threes, and then Denver on the road.
Denver on the road will be tough.
Yeah.
But San Antonio
still
going up against
Atlanta.
They've
got a lot of winnable games, but I am shooting on the under for them because I would rather watch a young, energetic team make the playoffs and see what they can do.
And you look at overall, they got Portland again, they got Golden State again, they got the Rockets, they got the Nuggets 2 more times, the Bucks,
I'm sorry, does
the Raptors.
anyone outside of San Antonio want to watch LaMarcus Aldridge, Rudy Gay, and DeMar DeRozan?
Dave, that's not the point, though.
No, that's the point I'm making.
And you could even make the argument, too, that you look at the Kings' schedule. They have Boston twice. They have Philadelphia. They have Brooklyn. They have the Lakers. They have Houston twice. They have, to close out the season, they have Utah, possibly a game against Anthony Davis on April 7th, and then Portland to end the year.
They'll play 24 and a half.
They have a road stretch as well, going to Los Angeles, Dallas, New Orleans, Houston, San Antonio, starting on March 24th, going to March 31st. They have they have the back-to-back against Houston and San Antonio there. Like,
there are no easy roads in the West.
Yeah, and you have even coming up too. You have at Denver, at Golden State, at Oklahoma City, and then at Minnesota, and then you have to come home and play fucking Milwaukee. So like the Kings aren't going to have an easy role either. But it's at Minnesota, so it's a little bit tougher. And
they literally lost to the backups on the Pelicans. Like, they played Anthony Davis for 24 minutes, and then they lost to the backups on the Pelicans.
That's fine. You look at the Kings though too. It's like at Denver, like before the All-Star break, and then you open it up after the All-Star break at Golden State. So you're having like a fresh Golden State team.
Maybe that could be to their benefit, because it's not like Golden State can get any better in my mind. They can only get worse from here.
And Sacramento has played Golden State tough.
Yeah.
If I had to rank those teams,
there's a hangover there.
I'd say LA at 1. I'd say Utah at 2.
Yep.
I'd say Sacramento at 3. I'd say Spurs at 4. I'd say Clippers at 5.
So we're all pretty much the same.
But here's the thing: is I think that the 3 and 4 between the Kings and the Spurs is closer than what you have it as.
And there's a 2-game gap, right?
Yeah, and I think that. Again, I want to see the Kings in the playoffs. I'm with you. Yes. I do not want to see the Spurs in the playoffs at all. I love Greg Popovich. I do not want to see his team in the playoffs at all. I don't want to see LaMarcus Aldridge there at all. I don't want to see that. But I do want to see De'Aaron Fox with Harrison Barnes and Buddy Hield and Bogey and Marvin Bagley, who's putting up 17 and 10 over like a 5 stretch of games, the best 5 stretch of game of his career. Like, I want to see that stuff, but I just don't know how feasible it is. I want it to be feasible. I want it to happen, but I don't know how it's going to happen. I want to see them get swept by Golden State in the playoffs. Like, that's what I want to see, but I don't think it's going to happen. If you don't like
that, you don't like Kings basketball.
And if you don't like Kings basketball, let us know down in the comments below. I want them in the playoffs, but I ultimately don't think it's going to be possible. Although I do like all the moves they made this offseason. We even really talk about the Harrison Barnes thing. I think it's a move that makes sense just because you're not
needed a wing who could be a legit starter who could defend.
You're not going to use that cap space.
It's good for him. Change of scenery is going to help Harrison tons.
We talk so much about Sacramento now.
Good.
He was
putting up
but
like 18 and like 6, wasn't
I
he?
feel like this is with the Kings. He'll start
On
hitting
really good shooting percentages
hitting his
already.
groove more so with the Kings than with the Mavericks.
Yeah, and the thing too is like
A different role, but he was a good player. You make it sound like he's a reclamation project.
No, we're going to talk about that in a
but
second.
But he's not worth the
But
24 million.
He's putting up good numbers.
I mean, 40 on 30. I mean, he's shooting 40% from the field. He's shooting 39% from 3, which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, he was putting up 17 and 4.
Yeah.
17, 4, and 1.
All right.
So, I mean,
I was a little over, but
again, like if he can get better from the field, that'd be great. And he, first game
he's taking a lot of contested shots in the Mavericks.
And first game as the King, he played 37 minutes and went 2 of 4 from 3. So again, I just think that it's going to be interesting to see how he really takes off. But again, he's not a guy that they would have been able to sign in free agency. They go out and get him. They bring him in. They don't have a ton of salary cap that's going to be taken up because they have so many young guys on cheap deals. So I really like the move for Sacramento. But let us know if you like the move in Sacramento, and do you think that the Kings are going to make the playoffs? Let us know down in the comments below. But let's move into the next topic, and we are talking about, I think, Dave and I's, outside of Luka Doncic, our biggest draft crush. Would you say that, Dave?
He's pretty up there.
For the past 3 years, what we've been doing this, right? 3 years. Would you say that he's
Ben, but like that was just no brainer.
You take Ben over this player?
Ooh. At draft time, no, I wouldn't have.
Okay.
It would be Luka this player,
Ben.
and then Ben.
I know you wouldn't have this player in your top 3.
not even close.
Yours was, I think,
Lonzo.
Yeah, it was. Well, I think yours was Trae Young,
yes.
Lonzo, and Buddy Hield.
I don't know.
I think that was your 3. You rode the Buddy Hield and Lonzo digs pretty hard.
No. What I'm debating is, here's the debate. Did I like Lonzo more than Trae Young? I think I liked Lonzo better. I think it was more on the Lonzo train than I was on the Trae Young trade.
Yeah, but I think those are your 3 guys.
Yeah, no, I'm just debating on which is number 1, Lonzo or Trae.
Man, what a garbage.
I'm trying to think. Was there anyone else besides Buddy? I gotta look at that draft, but go ahead.
Well, no, I'm not saying. I mean, they could be 2 from a draft.
Yeah, no, but like
I'd
my
say,
one guy from that draft. I don't know if it was Buddy.
My guy this year's gonna be Nazarene, but we're talking about Markelle Fultz.
You're so wrong.
Who's not?
He's trash.
We're going to talk about Markelle Fultz being traded to the Orlando Magic. Jonathan Simmons, a protected OKC pick. It's top 20 protected, and a second-round pick going to Philadelphia. And Markelle Fultz, the former number 1 overall pick, going to the Orlando Magic. The Magic finally got their point guard. Dave, you've been mocking it for years now, and they finally get their guy, the best guy you've ever mocked him, at least potentially on paper.
That's true.
However, we obviously know what he's been going through. He hasn't been healthy. The shoulder's been messed up. Apparently, right after, since he was drafted, he's still going through rehab apparently for thoracic outlet syndrome. What should we expect from Markelle Fultz? Is there hope still left for Markelle Fultz going to Orlando?
Oh, there's absolutely still hope out there, because you have to remember, even without the shot there, he is still an excellent facilitator. He can still drive to the cup. He's creative. He is absolutely still there's hope for him. But if that shot comes back, ooh, that's dirty. And I feel bad, because I've been saying if that shot comes back for quite a long time now, and I don't know how much longer I can keep saying it. But look, Markelle Fultz was by far the most polished product as a scorer that we had seen in ages. Coming out to the NBA from a freshman in college, even during his AAU days, he was roasting people at the under-18 game. Like, he had everything lined up to be an absolute stud in the NBA. So I'm not done on him. He's 20. I think he's still 20, isn't he? He can't even drink right now.
I think he's 21.
Is he?
Yeah.
He might be 21.
I'm looking it up.
Because I think Lonzo's 21.
He's 20.
Oh!
Is he really?
He'll turn 21 May 29th.
Damn.
It's good.
That's insane.
It's good. He's still 20 years old.
Is Lonzo still 20? But yeah, I mean, Markelle, he's extremely young. But
Lonzo's 21.
Okay. If we're still, thank you for that. If we're still talking about,
You want to know Lonzo's middle name? Just to interrupt you? Anderson.
is it really?
Lonzo Anderson Ball.
His probably mom's last name, maiden name's Anderson. Anyways, going to the Markelle Fultz thing though is like, if he can get his shot, is like if Zion can develop a 3, if Ben Simmons can develop a 3. Really?
If Zion can shoot a 3, yeah.
Is it worse than Ben?
No, he's a better shooter than Ben. Period.
With this?
Yep. Period. Currently.
I mean,
currently.
I just don't know if he's ever going to get to that
He's got the mid-range
player.
hezzy Jimbo.
He had that one. He had that one
sorry.
on the right
I had to
side,
get one in.
going like away from the elbow, like right in that like spot, like not a three,
still
but
see it.
it kind of I can't forget, but it's pretty much the wing.
His
That
elbow extended.
yeah, that elbow extended. Hezzy Jimbo, but that's the only one we've seen. And then like the next game, he's doing this shit where he's like doing the roll with the free throw. Like I don't know what this kid can be.
Yeah.
And I personally don't have any hope. And I think I'm going to have my expectations
You're
set low.
hopeless.
Well, here's my thing: is I'll set my expectations low.
Honestly, my expectations are still middle. Like it's like if he can be a average starting point guard in the NBA.
My hope is just the fact that he can play. Like because I don't even know if he can play.
Is he?
Am I wrong here, Ricky?
Is he
I'm
better than
get-
DJ Augustine?
I'm gonna reach down here. I don't know. I'm gonna pull out a word that
Oh.
starts with a B, and I'm starting to polish it off.
Oh, no.
That's where I'm.
oh
at.
no, you put that away, sir.
I am
Bowling?
polishing it off. No,
Bowling
bust.
ball. Oh,
A bust.
that was bowling ball.
That is where I am
I
getting.
want to hear that.
Because like
Did you take off your headphones?
because
You still
on
hear
the
it?
76ers, like when he was on the
You're a bunch
76ers, you could say, well, you know what? He's not a bust yet. Well, now you've been traded. That means that team that went and traded up for you has said, nah, bro, we going to get rid of you because we don't believe in you.
It's the wrong
now,
timeline.
But now it is, for Markelle Fultz, it's do or die right here. These 3 years, if he does not fix it by the end of this contract, I'm pulling out that B word and I'm just going to put it on the table. You're a bust. For the Magic, though, I'm conflicted about it because I get what they say where it's, oh, well, it was a low price, like low risk, high reward.
It absolutely
I
is.
get that,
Yeah.
but I still hate it. I still hate it.
What?
Because I'd rather keep the pick next year. I'd rather keep Jonathan Simmons. I'll just take Darius Garland in the draft. Because there are so many less
So you go
questions.
for another injured player?
But
Hold
there's
on,
less
hold on.
questions for him than a Markelle Fultz.
How the hell are you getting Darius Garland?
In the draft?
Yeah.
Easily. They're 7th. I think Garland would go
Dude, that's
7
not
to
the
them.
pick they got. They got OKC, and it's
No,
top 20
no,
protected.
I'm saying this, like,
Oh,
I'd
the
rather
Orlando
keep,
Magic.
Yeah, I'd rather keep my Thunder
You're talking
pick
about
for next
Philly, my
year.
bad.
And for the Magic, I'll just take Darius Garland right now, which would be the 7th pick in the draft, because to me, yes, he's coming off an injury, but there's way less questions about him than Markelle Fultz.
Here's the thing, though. You can take both of them.
true.
You can still take Darius
See, I
Garland.
don't like that.
Yeah,
Why
they
not?
still don't have a point
Or you
guard.
can take Kevin Porter. Like, there's no reason, no law that's making you not take another guard because you have Jonathan Isaac at 3. You have Aaron Gordon at the 4. You have Mo Bamba at the 5. So now you just need to fill out that 1 and 2 spot. And Markelle Fultz, at his best, can possibly be a combo guard. So why couldn't you take a Darius Garland? Why
Who
couldn't you
also
take a
could be
Kevin Porter?
combo guard.
Yeah, I mean, like, you have the ability to still take a guard. I don't think this takes away. Orlando, this is the lowest risk you could possibly take.
Yeah.
You're giving away a 20th pick, like a 24th pick, Jonathan Simmons, who you weren't even using, you don't need, and a second-round pick. That's nothing for a guy who could possibly be like James Harden level if he ever finds his confidence, his shot, or anything.
But that's the big thing. If. And at this point,
of course, but
with
like,
Markelle Fultz, the more you say if, the more it's like, well, that ain't going to happen.
but
And
here's
it's
the thing is, like,
I don't think we're ever going to see
what have you
the
lost?
ifs. So, like, let's stop saying. Well, and that's the thing where I
You haven't
said
lost anything.
I'm
A
kind
24
of
pick? Yeah.
iffy on it because I get the low risk, high reward to where I'm not full on the hate, but there's part of me that's like, you know what? Do you have to take that risk? But the only reason why it's not that big of a deal is because of how low the risk is.
Give
I
me
don't
another
think-
point guard who will be there at 24 in the next draft. Like, it's just, you're not going to get a better one than Markelle Fultz.
That's the thing is, like, you couldn't package this for a guy with more potential. Like, this is the best deal you could have gotten for that price, and I don't think you're giving up something that's going to handicap your future at all. And this is a guy that can even bolster your future. Like, I think this is a great deal for Orlando. I wouldn't question
amazing.
that.
Yeah.
It's just, did Philadelphia possibly give up on him too early? And I don't think the answer is yes fully because you gave up a guy who is still on his rookie deal and is still a guy who you traded up for, and I mean you pretty much gave away Jason Tatum for him and a future pick. It's looking like a horrible deal. It is a horrible deal because that deal's over.
Danny Ainge wins
because
again.
even if Markelle Fultz turns out to be something, you didn't. He's not doing
Exactly.
anything for you.
Exactly.
But you even look at him, it's like they traded him because they wanted the cap space because, they now don't have to pay him $13 million or $10 million next year,
10,
which is going to be put towards Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris, which, I mean, it's kind of sad to say.
Right, but I don't think it was just the cap space. I think it was...
Oh, no, I don't think so either, but
okay.
that's a plus.
Yeah.
Like, if he was costing $2 million, they would have kept him.
Probably. But I think it was just they needed to move on from that chapter because their timeline said, oh, we got Jimmy Butler. We're making another move for Tobias Harris. We are in engaged championship contender mode. And you know who doesn't fit that? Markelle Fultz. We need someone who can help us today. We don't care about tomorrow, next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. We just don't care. Like, we're here to win now. And I think this is the move that they made says that. I don't think it says anything about, whether they think Markelle Fultz will or will not ever find his shot back. It was just they needed to move forward as an organization. No drama, no nothing. And again, it sets them up nicely for the future to get that double signing of Jimmy and Tobias for long term. But I don't think it was ever like we have zero faith. I think it's just it's too much of an unknown that he will not be able to help us when we need him in the next 2 years.
Yeah, I think you look at Fultz, and I think it is a great situation for him to possibly thrive.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Philadelphia, it was a move that needed to be made. Because, again, like you obviously mentioned the fact that they're bringing in Tobias, they're bringing in Jimmy, they got to spend that money, and they're also trying to just get players to help them now. And Fultz wasn't going to help him now. I think that's a great point that you made. But it's also like you're getting him out of Philly where it seemed like Philly fans were turning on him, Philly media was turning on him. It was getting toxic, and Orlando was just looking for anything bright. Orlando was looking for a guard, and they got a guard. And if he doesn't work out, well, shit, that's not our pick that we wasted. Like, we got rid of Jonathan Simmons, who I don't think any Magic fan truly cared about.
No.
And we're all talking about Jonathan Simmons as like an eighth man for Philadelphia, and I don't think anyone's too hyped about it. And you're looking at that Oklahoma City trade, the Oklahoma City pick, that could possibly swing that Victor Oladipo deal because that's where you got that pick from, and you gave up Sabonis and Vic for Serge Ibaka. Like, that's looking like a garbage deal. And if you're able to take that and possibly get something out of it, like Markelle Fultz,
try to
that could
balance the
possibly
scales again.
save it a little bit. So I mean, I don't think anyone's going to kick themselves in Oklahoma City for doing that because they ended up getting you Paul George. But I think with at least the Fultz thing, that can at least save that trade. So I really like the deal for Fultz just because you're going to go to a place in Orlando where there's not high expectations for you. There's not a lot of media out there covering the Orlando Magic. And, I think that the Amway Center can get bumping again if this is a team that gets to the playoffs. And you could kind of be seen as a savior if you're able to come in and be productive. Again, it's a ton of ifs, like Ricky's saying. I don't really want to throw out the word bust there because I think it's too obvious.
He's 20.
Well, but it's also too obvious too, because like if he doesn't play and he's released, like
he's Greg
after
Oden.
this year, he's Greg Oden. He's Anthony Bennett.
No, Anthony Bennett's different.
How?
Anthony Bennett was never a great player. In his prime
It was
of
just
college, he was never a great player.
It was just a bad
Markelle
draft year.
Fultz was a phenomenal player in college. Yes, his team couldn't win games, but he was an incredible individual talent. So was Greg Oden.
But I'm saying more of the fact that they didn't make it to another contract.
Right.
Bennett was...
Oh, I think somebody will give Markelle Fultz a contract. There's enough teams desperate for point guard reclamation.
No,
the Suns will do
you're
it right
talking
away.
about the team that drafted him didn't make it to the second contract.
No, I'm talking about second NBA contract.
Okay.
Anthony Bennett didn't make it to one.
Okay.
I think Markelle Fultz is still a possibility.
Didn't Greg Oden get a 10-day from Miami or something like that?
Yeah, I think he won a ring with Miami.
Yeah.
Because
he was like LeBron James' father behind him.
Yeah, that's why I didn't throw Greg Oden in there. I think Greg didn't make it to it. Not right away, though.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He was rehabbing for quite some time. But, I mean, he was, again, incredibly talented. It's just his health gave out on him. And I know the case is there to be made about the mental status of Markelle Fultz. But because nothing's public, all I can say is he has a diagnosed condition now, and that's being addressed correctly for the first time in the last 2 years.
The thing with Fultz that I just kind of wanted to push just a little bit is if he doesn't make it to that second contract, and if you're talking about like reclamation projects, it's just can he actually be out on the floor? Like I think that would be a win for Orlando if he's able to at least put up like he's able to come back at some point in this series and able to finish out hopefully like the last 20 games for Orlando, and then you look at next year, hopefully he can play like 70 games for you, and I think that would be a win for this trade just to see what he can do.
Yeah.
But even then, if he goes out there, he's plays 70 games, he's not able to do anything. I think he could definitely not be looked at.
We're talking about the guy who is the youngest triple-double in NBA history. He's going to be able to...
That doesn't mean shit anymore.
He had the youngest triple-double in NBA history without being able to shoot from the outside. You have to give him some credit for that.
Not really.
Wow.
I mean...
I'm just going to say...
Do triple-doubles mean anything anymore? I mean, Luka's doing it. I mean, we have Russ doing it for a whole year. What? I mean, like, no, honestly, make the argument that they do. Because, like, what did that... when was that game? Who did they play? Like, it's not that memorable anymore.
Yeah, we don't care about Russ no more.
Russ is averaging another triple-double. Why do you hate us?
Because...
It's all about James Harden now.
I'm just asking that question because Luka just broke the record again. Like, Lonzo did it, and then Markelle broke it in the same year, and then Luka did it. Like
no, Luka didn't break it. Luka broke the 30-10-10.
The 30-10-10. So I mean, like we have these rookies just coming in and doing it. It's not that impressive anymore.
I would
Markelle
still
had like
say
11, 10,
out
and
of
11.
these, 60 rookies drafted, one person doing something that hasn't been done in NBA history every single year is still pretty freaking impressive. And I would definitely say that statistically contributing to your team in a winning effort in every possible category is impressive. I think that you may have lost your lackluster of it's a unique special thing because it's happening often, sure. But the point of the matter is he's still doing some of everything, which means, guess what? You have a very diverse player who's able to contribute to your team winning in multiple assets or multiple aspects.
I mean, he put up 13, 10, and 10 in that game against Milwaukee, and Giannis only played 22 minutes. Tony Snell played 25. Sterling Brown got 32 minutes.
And how many did he play?
Huh?
How many did Markelle play?
Markelle played 26.
Yeah.
25.
Yeah, so in 25 minutes or less, he had a triple-double.
25-15.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Last time I checked.
I mean, he shot like 45% from the field. Like, I just...
Numbers, like, do they even mean anything?
He wasn't doing it against great competition. Like, if Markelle Fultz put up
the Bucks were a playoff team, were they not?
But you were going up against their actual playoff lineup. You were playing up against Jabari Parker and Sterling Brown and Tyler Zeller and Brandon Jennings and Thon Maker and Matthew Dellavedova and Jet got 5 minutes in that game.
I'm surprised Jet didn't get more.
Yeah, Jet got 5 in that game. He didn't even hit a 3.
They loved him.
Like, you're playing John Henson and Tony Snell for 25 minutes. Like
Tony Snell's probably been a 25-minute player like all the years he's been there, though. Like he's a
Giannis got
40+% 3-point shooter and a good defensive wing.
Giannis got less minutes than Markelle Fultz.
Quit talking like he's trash.
I mean, but Giannis got less minutes than Markelle Fultz that game. Like it's not like I think triple doubles can lose their meaning if they're not in context.
I don't think so.
Whatever.
We have to agree to disagree.
I mean, hopefully he can put up more triple doubles. I'd be great. It'd be fantastic.
I don't think he needs to. I think it's just he needs to come back and just play games, and that's all. All it comes down to is if he can come back and play games for the Magic, this is a win on their end.
And that's the thing with me where I am questioning that if I had to put my money on it right now, he ain't getting that second contract. He is going to fizzle out and then be nothing after. Like, I think it's going to be so bad to where this year happens, next year happens, the Magic go, well, this was fun, and then let him go.
Why? Exactly?
Like, he doesn't, like, I just don't see, like, we talk about, and Dave even said how long he's been saying it. We've been saying what if for so long to where I'm like, I don't see any visual proof that things are going to change and that he's going to find his game. Stella's not going to get her groove back. He's going to go through this year, go through next year in my mind, and then the Magic will have a choice. And let's say they do draft Darius Garland and he plays better. They'll say, why are we going to pay you $12 million when we got this kid on a second year of his rookie contract? Have fun, Markelle.
I think the biggest thing for Fultz will just be playing, and I think I'm going to contradict myself. Like I said, like even if he plays 70 games next year, like it's still up in the air that he might not get a second contract. I think if he plays, he can still like be a contributor. I think he just might get like a 1-year deal if he's not blowing the world off its hinges. Because then teams might throw an RFA deal at him and make the Magic match it.
I mean, worst case scenario, he's basically Alfred Payton, right? I'm saying worst case scenario. Yeah. He's basically Alfred Payton. Who was the Magic?
The worst case scenario is he could be much worse than Alfred Payton.
I think worst is he's not playing. I think if he plays for you, you get. If he's playing, the worst potential outcome is Alfred Payton.
Yeah, I think that being on this team, being on this team, I think that you have the ability to distribute. Because you have Aaron Gordon running a pick and roll. Mo Bamba's a big body. Vucevic is still on this team. He's a big body too. If you play this year,
knocking down from the outside. Same with Ross.
Like I mean, there's the ability to be effective on this team. It's just being out there. I just don't know if I can trust that. Again, it's huge ifs. So I think it's the right scenario for him. And if it doesn't work here, that's why I'm saying he might not make it to another NBA contract. If he's hurt, he's not trusting himself. I just want to see him be like, don't shoot ever again. Just drive, because he's really good at driving. He's got a great body. He's got great length. He's smart. He's crafty.
For Giannis.
he's crafty. Like, just wait 2 years until he starts shooting. Like, I just want to see him playing, and I don't know if that's gonna happen because we haven't even heard news about if he's gonna play for Orlando. We didn't hear news about how
rehabbing
was going.
They were aiming at G League for both he and Zaire together.
Well, they put Patton and Zaire together.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Patton and Zaire were together. He was further out. Yeah, you're right.
But even then, it was 4 to 6 weeks, and that was months ago.
Yeah,
it was like 2 months ago.
Do you think the Magic still do something like that, or do we not see them next year? And the Magic plan is, let's just get you ready for next season.
Oh, let's try to get this year.
Yeah, like this year, kind of play it low, rehab, and then like, hey,
I don't know if
let's get you ready for 2019, 2020.
50-50, he plays a game this year, going forward. Like, I don't, it's just, we haven't had any communication, so it's hard to say that he 100% will be back, so 50-50. Like, if he's healthy, sure, put him out there. There's no harm that can be done at this point.
And the thing is that, him and his agent, Raymond Brothers, and himself, they could have just not liked the way the 76ers were handling it, and maybe he's just going to be absolutely fine and play, next week. Yeah. Like, I think that we don't know what's going on.
Right.
I would even put it like 2080 that he doesn't play because I just don't know. Like, I don't trust this going on at all because I think he's been healthy this whole time. It's all been his head. Ooh. And I don't know what's happening on. I don't know if it's the yips. I just think he's got a ton of shit in his head. He's got to figure it out, and I hope he does. I'm not saying I'm not trying to bash any mental problems or mental issues or mental health problems that he's dealing with. But it's just something that I don't know what the hell's going on with him, and maybe it is all physical, but maybe it's also making up in his head that there is something physical because he was such a great basketball player and he just hasn't been able to find it. It's happened before. I just don't know if it's what the situation is until we see him out on the floor. Can't really say it, but Markelle Fultz, I think he's in the right place to thrive. I think the team's a good fit for him. I think the arena, I think the city's a good fit for him.
Yeah.
It's just he's got to do it now. It's all on Markelle to go out and be the #1 draft pick of the 2017 draft, where Donovan Mitchell was taken, Jason Tatum was taken, De'Aaron Fox was taken, Lonzo Ball was taken. Wrong draft? No, De'Aaron Fox was in that draft, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because De'Aaron Fox ate that booty.
Yeah, so you gotta go out and prove it.
I do have one final question for you. Are you surprised it wasn't the Suns making an effort to get him? Because there were two teams in the running, and it was Suns or Magic.
And it was a cheap thing. I think the only thing would just be who would the Suns have to give up that's equal to
Jonathan Simmons. Depends how much they value Kelly Oubre.
Yeah, well, because then he's an RFA.
And they wouldn't pick him up anyway for next year, so that's equivalent.
He is younger, though, so I think that
But he's a good defender.
But I think the Sixers are probably looking at the playoff experience.
Potentially, yes.
That Simmons had
from the Spurs.
So I think that could be something, and also Brett Brown's Brett Brown knows that he can play in a similar system because obviously Brett came from the that pop tree.
Could offer Rashawn Holmes back.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
I know they got Boban, but still.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that both these teams didn't have guards to offer up to him. Like, if they had a guard to offer up, like maybe even DJ Augustin, I'm surprised DJ wasn't thrown in that deal to work off the bench.
They would literally have nothing then. The Magic.
Yeah, but what are they playing for?
Well, and
they can't just go full Suns and not have a point guard.
Well, and if I'm the Suns too, they're in a different situation than the Magic because, like how I said with the Magic, why would you do this? You can take Darius Garland in the draft. If you're the Suns, they were probably sitting there going, you know what? We're not going to give up too much because right now in the draft, if we stick where we're at, we miss on Zion, but we can get Ja at 2 and still be fine to where maybe that's what played into them not really pressing to get him Markelle Fultz.
But I think they didn't have an OKC pick to give up, but they could have probably given up a ton of 2s.
Is it also weird to just realize that Orlando has 11 more wins than Phoenix with all that young talent on Phoenix? Like Orlando just winning games.
12,
I know it's the East-West thing, but still, it's
23.
They also have an All-Star. They have Vucevic. And I think you have veterans that aren't really. I mean, you have young players and more young talent, but you also have veterans who are coming out playing under Steve Clifford, who is a guy who can get that team. Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who's his teams will be close to 500, just not good in the playoffs.
Sorry, I tangented a couple
you're fine. That's going to do it for the Markelle Fultz trade. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think Markelle will have a resurgence in his career? We all sure hope so, but it's definitely going to be a tough road for Markelle to climb. And hopefully for the Magic they do, because we would love to see him with a point guard and hopefully a future superstar. I'd love to see Markelle Fultz thrive, especially in Orlando, because maybe we could stop giving them so much shit too. I would like to do that. But anyways, let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. But let's jump into the final topic. Again, don't forget to check us out on patreon.com/mostvaluable-podcast. You can be like Jake and be on a podcast. We appreciate his support and all of our other patron support, like Bill, who was on very recently, like Pat, who was on recently. We have John coming up as well. Also, shout out to everybody else who is a patron and does support us, like our guy Shane, who was on the onside kick. But let's jump into this talk. We're going to finish it strong with the Bulls-Wizards trade. Jabari Parker and Bobby Portis and a second-round pick go to the Washington Wizards, and the Bulls get Otto Porter Jr. Being in Chicago, there was a lot of hate for this trade. Ricky, I'm going to go to you as the...
In Chicago, there was a lot of hate.
People were pissed that they picked up Otto Porter because people love Bobby Portis, and that Otto Porter is making that much money for the next 3 years. People were not happy with this trade in Chicago.
Not these two guys.
Not these two. We were happy.
That's the thing.
We got a Wang.
So I'm asking
We
you,
got Wang.
what was your reaction? Why do you have a positive outlook on this?
I like it because now I'm going to like it and hate it, and it's all going to depend on where our draft situation is, because now if we do what we're supposed to and lose games, like play very well, lose the game in the end, hopefully all we need is a top 3 pick, same odds. I'm even hoping just 1 or 2. Like if we miss out on Zion, we get Ja at 2. We can take him, have Ja at the 1. We figured out our 3 problem. Even if we're at 4, I mean, we'll just take a wing, or we can even reach on a Darius Garland depending on what his workout is. But yeah, I was not mad at this because now we don't have to overpay Bobby Portis. And now, like, we got something out of Jabari.
Well, and people were saying that Bobby Portis has better numbers this year, that Bobby was such a hard, nosed player, that he wanted to be in Chicago.
He wasn't going to fit in.
Well, that's the thing is, like, you look at Mark and Wendell Carter, where the fuck was Bobby Porter going to play? You're going to pay him $14 million to sit on the bench? Come on.
Yeah, no, he's a good, energetic player. Yeah. I love Bobby. I love what he did for the Bulls.
He's already hit his ceiling.
But yeah, he is not going to suddenly, learn how to play defense and get better. Guess what Otto Porter is? He's a wing who can play defense, who shoots above 40% from 3, who shoots above, I think it was like, what was his last year? It was like 48 from 2. Like, he's an incredibly efficient shooter. And I know that this year was kind of like a slump year for him because of all the John Wall garbage, but I just, in my heart of hearts, can't see a way that this isn't a win for this Bulls team because it's realistic. You can cry about his contract all day. Who's going to sign with the Bulls?
I don't think it's a bad contract at all, because
who's going to sign?
I'm going to throw this out there.
Yeah.
Just imagine it this way: the money that we're using on Otto Porter, that's what we would have offered for Bobby Portis. Just think of it that way.
We would have not offered.
No. I'm not saying we would, but think of it that way. Like, okay, we got rid of Bobby. This is the money that we would have been paying. Yeah, basically, this is our free agent move. Plus, also, if you look at it, when does Otto Porter... Dave, read my computer. When does Otto Porter's contract come up?
2021.
When does Lauri Markkanen's contract come up?
2021.
They add the same. They're Otto Porter, that money's coming off the books when we have to go ahead and give it to Lauri.
Also, you can go over the luxury tax to keep Markkanen because you'll have his bird rights.
Exactly.
So
but, I mean,
it doesn't
at
really
the same
matter
time,
that much.
I mean... That's going to free up for moves that maybe we want to make in the future.
If Otto plays solid, then who knows? We might want to keep him.
Who knows, indeed. Who
We've
knows
got his bird rights at that point.
Who knows if he's going to take his player op? Yeah, he will. In 2020.
Absolutely will.
And, I mean, this is something where now we can get a top 3 pick, and instead of, like, of course, everyone's tanking for Zion, but if we get the 2, all we got to do, actually, not even 2, we just got to end in front of Phoenix, and we get John Morant.
Just to answer your question previous, Otto Porter last 2 years, 14 points, 6.4 boards, 1.8 assists on 50% shooting from the field, 43% shooting from 3, and 55% from 2-point.
Incredible.
Yeah, and the thing too, Ricky, going off that is, having Zion, if you're the number 1 pick, you can't go past him. You're 100% right. He's a possible transcendent player. You're going to have to figure out where he's going to play. And, having Otto Porter, that might move him to the bench. But you'll have to figure that out, and that's a problem that is good to have. You're going to have Zion Williamson. You're going to have to figure out where to play him. I don't think that's the worst problem to have. However, the fact that I still see people disrespecting John Morant on Twitter and saying, I don't know how good he is because Cam Payne came here and Isaiah Cannon came from here, it doesn't mean shit. I tweeted this out. Elliot Harrison, what the fuck was his name? Elliott something?
I have no idea.
And goddamn, I can't think of these guys' names because they're bums. They both were guards that came from Duke. Does it mean you're not going to take Kyrie Irving? Talent is talent. We're not just looking at these guys and being like, oh, well, look at the numbers. He's playing great. Like, yes, there are garbage guys who are not in power programs who are putting up 27 a game, but they're not Ja Morant with his explosive ability like he has. His ability to move the ball around. There's not guys that are putting up 24 and 10 each and every single night, putting up 40-point triple-doubles in Murray State. These are records that are being set. These aren't just things that are putting up against trash competition. These are guys who have actual talent going up. Yes, he might not be as good as you can see, but this is a guy that's a goddamn star. He has potential, and you could see it if you watched any highlights from him.
Yeah, and the thing I want to throw out there in case you guys didn't see it on Twitter, I'm going through the whole thing because I'm giving this guy a shout out because it was a good one. It started with your tweet on MVP's Most Valuable Pod saying I don't want Ja Morant because Murray State has never produced a good pro guard would be equal to saying I don't want Kyrie Irving because Frank Johnson and Elliott Williams came from Duke.
Those are the
talent is
bumps.
talent. I quoted that and said I don't want Steph Curry because who the fuck comes out of Davidson? Yeah, exactly. No one came out of Davidson. I had to look it up, by the way. And then I got to throw a shout out at Josh Davis, who follows me on Twitter, Bulls fan. And he quoted it and said, I don't want at KD Trey 5 because who the fuck calls Kevin or who the fuck called Kevin is good at sports.
Kevin McHale.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, I don't want Kevin Durant because Kevins are
Garnett.
bad at sports.
Kevin Garnett.
Exactly. So, I mean, yeah, I don't get the hate for Ja. The only worry I have as a Bulls fan is we are 2.5 games out of the first pick, which I don't think we're going to catch the Knicks. But if we win a couple more, I feel like we could be solidifying ourselves at that 4
Trae
spot.
Young got to get better, and that's the only thing. Like, I don't want to fall out of the top 5. Obviously, the 3 is the money.
We got a 5 game cushion.
I know.
Kevin Youkilis.
Great.
What?
Thanks. He's naming other great
Kevins.
Kevins.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry. New York at 16 straight losses and Phoenix at 13 straight losses. I mean, what are you supposed to do against that?
We just got to hope the ping pong balls are in our favor.
Cleveland.
With Phoenix.
Cleveland.
The Suns get Suns.
I need Larry Nance to have another night like he had last night. I need Colin Sexton, same thing, but just actually win the game.
I just did the lottery and the Bulls got the first overall pick.
Does Calvin Benjamin count?
No, it's not Kevin. It's Calvin.
not a
And he's also not good. Okay.
Yikes.
I think that it's going to be playing into the lottery and figuring out the fact that you guys have 13 wins and still aren't number 1 is pathetic. But
tanking, don't you love it?
They're better than us at tanking.
yeah, they're horrible teams.
That's the thing. Do you think Otto Porter ruins
because we
this?
actually have a core.
Do you think Otto Porter ruins this?
No, because the Hawks have built a cushion that we might not be able to catch up to. Like we just lost to the Wizards, Dave. The Wizards. Like
and who beat us?
Think about it.
Who beat us?
It's Jabari and Bobby, but Bobby had a bad game. Think about this. This is the basketball gods keeping it even. We beat the Brooklyn Nets, who are a playoff team, and then lose to the Wizards.
But
it should have been the opposite.
Back.
I know.
He's not healthy.
I'm just saying,
And also,
playoff teams I expected to lose, and then
and
we
also,
won.
I mean, Marc didn't put up 30 points. He didn't put up 30 points against the Wizards. You also had Jabari's revenge game, which was weird.
He's assisting people now. Did anyone know he could do that?
Well,
no.
he just hates Jim Boylan.
Well, the thing
so.
is, and you mentioned it, is just the fact that you got to jump Phoenix because even if you're at 3 and New York and Cleveland are there, you're still going to be able to get Ja. If you land with RJ Barrett, then that's you fucked up. I mean, he's going to be a great pro. Don't get me wrong, but it's just not the right fit. Zion is one of those players you cannot pass up.
Yeah.
And some people are saying
he's fitless.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody today, and it was the discussion of I don't think Zion's that good. Or the fact that people are going to overhype Zion, and we already talked about this back in Mock Draft 2.0. We open up with it if you want to have that discussion, and it's like it's fine if he might not be that good, but at worst he's a for sure starter. Like he's not going to be a guy that's just a bench guy. He's not going to be Markelle Fultz. He's not going to make it possibly not make it to his second contract. Ooh. He's a guy that's an athlete that we've never seen before. And yeah, he might not be able to be a number 1 guy. That's probably the worst thing that he might not be able to do. But he's a guy that finds a way to win. He's a guy that's going to help you defensively and help you offensively. He's a guy that's going to give you max effort. And that max effort is coming from a 6'7" player who is 285 pounds, who can jump 44 feet in the air, and is one of the fastest players on the basketball court. Like, yeah, he might not be able to shoot, but he also has great dribbling ability. He has the ability to pass, and he has an unfreakish ability to put himself in defensive positionings to stop balls from going into the bucket. Like, he has the ability to be a leader on the floor. And yeah, he might not be as good as RJ Barrett. He might never put up 24 points per game, but he can be a leader on a team that can win a championship. And that's something special for a guy who might not even be a number one scorer to be able to say that. So I think you'd be stupid to pass up Zion Williamson. Yeah, he might not be an MVP one day, but he might be, he for sure will be an all-star at some point in his career. So you can't pass that up. And again, it's just like, I kind of get people worrying a little bit about Ja Morant just coming from Murray State. It's like, again, who came from Murray State?
Campaign.
And yeah, Isaiah Cannon. But I just, it doesn't matter.
No.
Talent's talent. And you watch this kid, and not only he's giving max effort too, just like Zion is, and he's doing his best to will this team to win every single night. And he can go upstairs.
Someone didn't get the memo.
I mean, the two that I showed you tonight were he had the alley-oop dunk on one end where someone threw it up to him, and then on the next play gets the rebound, dribbles it down, throws one up to somebody else. Like, you're telling me you don't want that on your team?
Give and receive.
You don't want that passing ability with Zach, with Otto now, with Laurie, with Wendell when he gets healthy next year? Like, are you crazy?
Yeah,
and
that's a core.
For me, the biggest problem with this Bulls team is what you said the last time. Jim Boylan is going to be our head coach. That is the biggest problem. I saw another thing on Twitter I tried to find was from Bull Scripted, where he quoted something where it was like Garpax was, again, saying that they believe that Jim Boylan is doing the right thing. And it's like, how can you see that? The players hate him. The players cannot stand him. Jabari just had his revenge game just to get back at us.
Publicly.
Well, exactly.
Another thing, too, John Paxson did an interview with a local radio station.
Yeah, he did.
And it was very contentious, and he started going and talking about, the Bears got lucky in their rebuild, and, there's no reason why we couldn't get lucky. And Jim Paxson's talking that, the Bulls had this crazy rebuild, and, they made the right moves. And
is he saying the Bears got lucky because they traded for Mitch?
Well, no, the fact that the Khalil Mack was available.
Oh, okay.
But what I would retort to that, and John Paxson saying that, is the guy that was doing the job before Ryan Pace, the guy who traded for Khalil Mack, got fired.
Yeah.
You need to move on from the current front office. That means you're losing your job, John. Realize what's in front of you. You shouldn't be here. No one wants you here. And the fact that Jerry Reinsdorf and Michael Reinsdorf had their head up their ass doesn't mean the fact that you guys are doing something that the Bears did. The Bears got lucky. That doesn't mean you're going to get lucky. And that doesn't mean that you guys can make the right personnel choice because you're looking at Jim Boylan straight in the face and thinking he's doing a great job.
Is he trying to tell us that Kevin Durant's going to choose us? Because that's asinine.
With money.
No, I know, exactly. But that's the only thing I can think of with him saying, well, why can't we get lucky? So Kevin Durant's coming here. I'm reading it.
I just think that John Paxson's delusional. I think that's all you can read into it, is that John Paxson's delusional and Gar Forman's delusional. That's the only thing that you can do. And if they keep Jim Boylan, not hire, if they already did, if they keep Jim Boylan around, it's just another delusional move. And if they pass on John Morant, which I don't think they would, or if they pass on Zion Williamson, it's another delusional move. I don't think they're that dumb. If they have the number 1 pick, they're going to take Zion. If they have the number 2 pick, they're going to take John Morant, and that would be smart.
Do you think we would trade up if we didn't to get John Morant? Or do you think...
Where would they be?
Say it lands exactly how it stands. We go 4.
New York 1, Suns at 2, Cavs at 3, Bulls at 4,
I think
Hawks
we
at
give
5.
the Suns real KD and question mark to move up.
Would the Suns want that, or would they say, no, we'll just take John Morant?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Do you think that if it landed this way, we would have firepower? Because I don't know if Phoenix would give up a chance at a point guard.
You'd have to probably give them an offer they couldn't refuse.
Yeah,
really.
Which I don't think we've got.
Yeah, unless they're interested in RJ Barrett. That's the only thing that I can think of. Or, they're interested in Cam and possibly moving Devin Booker to the 1. That.
Ooh,
I don't know what Phoenix is thinking at all.
Yeah.
And if you go with them for saying, hey, we'll give you the 4, Chris Dunn, and
I'm just thinking,
future.
Ricky mentioned trading up for a QB. Quarterback of the NBA is the point guard.
Yeah.
Would we be able to do that?
Say
it's anybody but Atlanta, or say anybody but Phoenix. Say Phoenix gets bounced and we're still out of the range.
Well, if you're still at 4, I still think you can get them.
Okay.
Because
I don't, only because I think Phoenix would go there, but like you said, they could.
But he's saying if Phoenix isn't a 2.
Say it gets pushed up for either New York, Cleveland, Atlanta. One of those other teams gets top 2, and we're saying at 3.
So like,
and Phoenix is 5.
Let's say this top 3 is there minus this Detroit thing that got thrown in there. Like New York, Memphis. Yeah. And then Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that...
Yeah, I think that...
It's pretty much, I guess, you're saying team-based, but yes, we would. Do you think that's something that we would do as an organization? Trade up for Ja?
No. I think the Bulls
No, I think they would.
Pat.
I think it's just the team that would take... I don't think the Suns would take it because they would rather have Ja on a long-term contract rather than Chris Dunn, who's going to be expiring soon, and then 2 picks. If you're giving the Grizzlies the ability to move from 2 to 4, and you're giving them a future Chris Dunn or some other player that they want, I think you could even probably just do the 2 and the 4 flip. Because really, who are the Grizzlies needing right now? They don't need John Morant. They'd probably want RJ or Cam, and you could still get that player at 4 if the Bulls are trading up to get Ja at 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thought that kind of came by. Would we put in stock to go get that guy for?
And then would Phoenix also be giving in stock? And then would you have a bidding war to trade up?
Phoenix has a lot of young assets.
You got to think, though, and I'm going to put this into consideration. I know it was the moving from 16 to 5, and there were other pieces. The last time the Bulls moved up like that from 16 to 7, we were offering Jimmy Butler.
But that was for 3 first-rounders.
No, I know, but like...
That was Jimmy Butler for 3 first-rounders.
But I'm saying, like, and that was 16 to 7. This is going to be in the top 5 where I think that the asking price from the Suns would be too much. The asking price to move up would be too much.
The reason why it would be too much is because they're going for the same player. If you're not going for the same player, I don't think it would be too much.
If
because
it's any other team. If it's Atlanta, they're not taking Ja.
The last time they actually traded up was a flip very similar. Was they
LaMarcus?
They drafted LaMarcus at 2 overall, and they took Tyrese Thomas at 4. And all they did was LaMarcus for Tyrese flip, and they threw in Victor Kypra, who was a guy who was just like who expired like the next year. He was like an overseas guy who was like 40 years old or something like that. So I mean, that was just a guy that they both like different players. They just wanted to flip them. Like it can be something similar
to go back to just last year,
the Luka and Trae thing. Yeah. All Dallas did was give him a future pick because they wanted Trae Young, they wanted Luka, they gave him a future pick. Like if that's Memphis, I think Memphis does that because they don't need Ja Morant. They have Mike Conley, unless they really like Ja that much and think he's going to be the replacement player to Mike Conley.
So if you're the Bulls, are you okay giving up your 2019 and we couldn't give up our 2020 because we can't give up back to back, so it would be 2019, 2021.
I wouldn't see a reason why not. Well, no, you
can give up the 2019 because we'd be in the 2019 draft.
So it's just like 2020, 2021 we couldn't do. Okay.
You're flipping the rights.
Yeah,
correct.
Then the flip the rights or just give the team the 2020 pick?
No, you're flipping the rights of the 2019 pick.
Okay.
Yeah,
you're still because like if you look at Atlanta technically selected Luka Doncic.
Yeah, he was
selected by Luka, but they traded him.
Yeah, they had Luka Doncic, they had Carmelo Anthony. Top of the world, Atlanta Hawks.
But and with the Bulls and that's the question that goes into it too. It adds another question of if we're in a rebuild, and I know we're a different rebuild because Zach, Markelle, Wendell, we have a core.
We've got 2 guys who can score 20 plus a game.
I feel like if we trade the 2020 pick, are we basically then? Are we then expecting to make the playoffs because then we won't have a first rounder, or then do we have to make a move to try to get a 2020 first round pick?
I think that we would probably be it's the East, so there's a chance we could make the top 8 in the 8th slot, but I think we'd likely be a 10 to 13, 10 to 14 team in the East.
When did John Paxson walk in the room? Even if you get John Morant, you're not a playoff team.
Absolutely are. If we stay healthy.
No.
Yes.
Who's your head coach?
Jim Boylan.
You're not a playoff
freaking
team.
Boylan.
Who's making the personal
Mark
moves?
Jackson. Mark Jackson.
If we rolled in with the starting 5 of Ja,
it would be
Zach LaVine.
It would be Ja,
Otto.
Zach, Otto.
No, I understand
Laurie,
the talent's
and
there.
Wendell.
You can't go anywhere if they don't want to play for the coach.
If they're healthy, we will win
games. It doesn't
games.
matter. I don't think so because you still have
and we have
this guy
Real KD as our 6th man.
True.
Or
do we try to ship them?
I'm not saying
ship 'em, I
the
don't
talent's not there, but you really need someone to lead that locker room, and they do not trust Jim Boylan, and I don't trust the front office.
Yeah.
Like, yes, the talent's there. I'm not disagreeing with that. The talent is absolutely 100% there, and the East sucks.
That's my point more.
But it doesn't matter because
especially
like,
East that could be
because
losing.
you have this horrible monster.
Yep.
That's maybe 2 over. It's just garbage as your head coach.
Let me throw this out. What if we'll say it's the exact same way it is?
Yep.
You've got New York, Phoenix, Cleveland, and the Bulls. Let's say we can't trade up to get Ja.
Yep.
Would you be okay with the Bulls saying, hey, we're going to go the other side of it? We're going to take our pick. We're maybe going to take KD, try to move back to a team that maybe wants a Cam Reddish, and then we'll take Darius Garland. We'll move back to get a Darius Garland because we can't get up to get Ja.
Yeah, it's possible.
It's possible, but as a Bulls fan, would you be okay with that if you're bringing in another 2020 pick?
Yeah, I'm cool with that because
that would be.
I like Otto Porter a lot more than other people do, probably. So I like him. I like Zach LaVine enough to say that he'd be at 2 still. So.
It's clear what their plan is. Again, it's Zion if they have their number 1 pick. If not, it's Ja, and then I think they're definitely going to be going after a point guard because I think Chris Dunn's run up his time and he doesn't even fit the age limit outside of Otto Porter.
He's being evaluated.
I mean, yeah.
Anyways, Otto Porter, I think it was a good deal.
Absolutely.
It's pretty clear that they're going after Ja Morant in the draft.
It's a bummer to lose Bobby though.
Yeah.
Without the 1-2 punch, who knows where we'd be?
It was cool though. He's the first only ever player to put up back-to-back 30-point games on different teams.
My favorite is the comment where Bobby was like, he tweeted at something that John Paxson said, where it's like, oh, he was a bench big that would be worth too much money. Yep. And Bobby said something, and the best response, I said, Bobby, can you play the 3 or play defense? Yeah, exactly. That's what someone said on Twitter. Can you play the 3 or defense? You can't do either.
Bulls fans, let us know what you think of the Otto Porter trade. Again, I think if you're just thinking of, and we're not going to do anything with the cap space. And, for rebuilding teams, it is essential because you could take on bad contracts and get, younger players and picks. But also this team's kind of getting to the age of you have these players in their starting lineup where now it's time to see if they can actually play together and be successful. So you got to go out and get players like a Ja Morant to kind of fill out that starting 5 and start making that push towards
Hopefully we're like the Kings from 2 years ago.
Hope so. But you're not going to be because Jim Boylan is going to be your head coach and Garpax is still in full force. Anyways.
Only for 1 more year at the worst, right?
Oh, they could sign him long term.
Please don't.
I'm just saying, don't put a cap on evil.
Don't wish that juju on me, Ricky.
Ricky, they've been there for 15 years.
Yeah,
so I don't think, it's not for sure written in stone. There's no term limit on Garpax. Right? What?
So Thibodeau's looking for a job, right?
Yeah, there's no term limit on Garpax, though, so there isn't a for sure out. Anyways, that's going to do it, though, for the Fast Break Podcast. If you did listen, thank you so much for listening to our 8-segment monster. I think it might end up being 9. 8 segments, 6 segments, 7-segment monster of a podcast. We appreciate everybody who listens on iTunes, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, even on YouTube. If you're watching the full podcast right now on YouTube, if you're listening to the segment or the Otto Porter segment, don't forget to like it, subscribe as well. We got over 15,000 subscribers. So shout out to you guys. We appreciate that. And you guys are absolutely fantastic. Also, thank you to all of our patrons. Patreon.com/mostofitpodcast is where you can become a patron. If you want to be on a podcast, talk about what you want with us for 30 minutes, that's where you can do that at the $10 range. But also, we're going to be updating it. We got some cool new stuff coming up soon on our Patreon page, updating it for you guys. So hopefully it makes it a little more incentivizing for you guys to become a patron. But thank you so much for listening. For Dave Oster, for Ricky Widmer, I'm Sean Anderson. See you next time.